We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our guest today is our series regular, Raphael Cohen-Bakri. Raphael Cohen-Bakri is a registered pharmacist, and Raphael is the educator for boron homeopathic medicines. And it's a pleasure to have Raphael Cohen-Bakri in studio today. Hello, Raphael.
Good morning, Josh. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. The homeopathic spot has been very popular.
Yes.
Very popular. And every month we pick a new topic. Are we talking about sports now?
Absolutely. Sports, what homeopathy can do to help people who exercise. And it's good for beginners and also for, athletes. I know you have some bodybuilders on the show often.
We do. Well, last week we had Franco Colombo.
It's wonderful, yeah. So I don't know if he's using it, but they're probably aware of it. A lot of athletes like homeopathy because, as I said before, it's non-doping. There's you don't become dependent, so it doesn't interact with any other medicines. And when you do competition, you don't want, of course, any doping or stimulant in your blood. So with homeopathy, you're totally safe. You get the benefit, but no side effects or interaction or any downside. So this is pretty popular with the athletes. And so I wanted to talk about every time you change your routine or you get into a new routine or you've been sedentary for a long time and you decide you want to exercise or you exercise more intensely, very often you're going to get a little bit of discomfort like muscle stiffness or cramping. So I wanted to tell you what we can do to help with that.
That sounds good.
So first of all, I wanted to make a difference between cramps and muscle stiffness. Sometimes we get confused, but it's important to make the difference because the treatment is not going to necessarily be the same.
Between cramps and muscle stiffness.
Absolutely. Muscle stiffness, muscle soreness. Although the causes might be similar, the manifestation is different. Muscle stiffness basically usually doesn't happen while you're exercising, unless you run or you do a hike for hours and hours. But usually it's a delayed answer within 24, 48 hours. And it's very typical, especially when you start something new. The first day you're fine, next day you're good, and 2 days later you have those, the muscles are really tense. And basically what it does, it limits your range of movement. So you cannot do even the basic thing. It's a little bit painful. Of course, it's nothing, but the problem is, especially for people who are starting something, it can be a deterrent. Saying, I'm such, it's too painful, or I have to go back tomorrow. I can't even, move properly. And it usually lasts a few days, and every day it gets better. So no big deal, but it's better not to let it like that because it's painful, and it's actually just a natural answer. When you exercise, you do like micro tearing of the muscles are made of fibers, obviously, and those fibers are going to grow again and repair, and that's why your muscle is growing and getting stronger. So this is normal. But what it does, there's inflammation and soreness, and that's why it's painful. So this is for muscle stiffness, and we'll see like our, celebrity medicine arnica is perfect for that. And the cramp is a little bit different. Cramps can happen during the exercise, or it can also happen at night. Sometimes it has nothing to do with exercising. Some people are just prone to those spasms at night, mainly in the calves. And it's a very sharp pain. It's really painful, much more painful than muscle stiffness. But it usually lasts like a few minutes, not even. And so this is the difference, and the approach is going to be different. So cramping can be sudden and without relationship to any exercise, or it can also be caused by exercise. There are many causes. We don't always know.
What are some of the causes?
Dehydration.
Oh.
So that can cause.
In other words, if I drink too much coffee or other
yes.
substances that dehydrate the body, that could make me prone to cramping.
Yes, you might know better than I do, but I think there's something also with if you drink a lot of sodas with the phosphoric acid they put in, to give that sour taste. It seems that it also binds with the magnesium or other element in your body, and then they're not available anymore for your body to use. Magnesium is well known. When you have cramping, it can be a lack of magnesium. So I think there are a lot of things that can, refined sugar does the same or a similar.
Refined sugar, I think, is certainly a factor.
Yes.
And probably a principal factor.
So basically, if you drink sodas with caffeine and sugar and
then you'd probably be more prone to that.
Yes,
and cramping really, it's not any fun. People think, oh my goodness, it really kind of incapacitates you for a while. It's not a laugh, really.
No, it's not. Some medicines can also, like diuretics, for the same reason, dehydration, depletion of calcium, magnesium. Pregnant women, sometimes they experience it more. For the same reason also. So I think if you do have a lot of cramping, you might want to see with your physician and maybe see if you're lacking some vitamins or other supplements. It might be a good idea to take. The other reasons is, of course, exercising.
Right.
You're gonna, when you exercise, you're using energy, and one of the byproduct of this phenomenon is lactic acid. And lactic acid it's not totally sure. I see some controversy, but apparently it contributes to the asphyxiation of the muscle. So the muscle cannot function as well, and that can also cause cramping.
So now you are a registered pharmacist. So from a scientific perspective, you feel that the lactic acid buildup is a factor, or is lactic acid just too broad a term?
No, I think it is. But, I read a lot of literature, and some people disagree a little bit or say it's not the only factor, but I think it is. And we'll see one of our medicine that, speeds up the elimination of lactic acid. It's pretty effective in treating cramping and muscle stiffness. So it would make sense, I think.
Alrighty.
So those are all the reasons. So just to make sure, it's good to hydrate yourself when you exercise. Especially, I've not, I come from the Alps, French Alps, and very often when it's cold, when you go ski, or you don't remember that you need to drink. You don't feel the thirst, and that makes it even, because you dehydrate a lot, especially in high altitude. So
oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Might be a good idea to drink even though you're not very thirsty. Alcohol also contribute to dehydrating,
and it does. Yes.
I know a lot of people, when they go and ski, they party at night, so the combination can be
right. Especially, and when you're skiing, if you're not really paying attention, you can get really hurt.
Oh, it's a kind of intense sport. Yeah. And that's very specific. You feel those cramping or muscle stiffness in the quadriceps. So it's a warm up is also an important stage. I remember I like warm up. I think it prevents a lot of injuries.
Oh yes.
But you always feel a little bit, silly
really?
Doing your little warm up in front of all the skills. I don't know, but I think it's better. I think it's
better too.
I think it helps,
especially since it's so cold and the body's so stiff. It just once again, skiing looks fantastic, but if you're not paying attention, you can really get hurt skiing, boy.
And the problem, living in the Alps, we would ski regularly, but a lot of people coming from Paris or they wouldn't be very active during the year, and then they suddenly get on the slopes and it's very intense. So that's also part of the problem when you get hurt. It's because you've been pretty sedentary the whole year, and suddenly you get into an exercise which is very intense.
Yes.
And there are a lot of accidents. People they're not very careful.
Right.
So what can you do to treat all those
Yes.
little issues? So for cramping, really the very typical, the spasm of the muscle. First of all, there's something you can do. If you stretch your foot back, your toes towards yourself, it really helps. Usually people who are prone to cramps, they know about it. But you can either do it yourself, or if it's difficult, you can take a towel and put it under the ball of your foot, and you just pull gently towards you.
Okay.
And it really, I don't know what it does, but it helps the muscle to relax. So that's something you want to do. Also, you should, again, if you're prone to cramping, there's a medicine that I think is so effective. It's a homeopathic medicine.
Yes.
It's called Cuprum metallicum. It's basically copper. It's
Cuprum metallicum for cramping.
It's a dilution of copper. I like to use Cuprum metallicum 6C because it's a very local action, and usually cramp is very local. If you're in a period where you have a lot of cramping, you can take 5 pellets at dinner or at bedtime, doesn't matter. And then if you wake up and you get those cramps, you take 5 pellets under your tongue right away. And even if you didn't take any during the evening, it works really fast. This is a medicine I've seen working on myself because Cuprum is for any kind of spasm. So it's for cramping. When you have those eye twitches, when the lid is really, and there's nothing you can do. I remember before I knew about Cuprum, we would say, if patients would tell us, I have that, it's annoying, it's nothing, but it's really annoying, the twitching. It's a lack of magnesium. So just take your magnesium supplement, but it's going to take a few days or even a few weeks before you really, not that you're going to twitch for a few weeks, but for the body to get the amount of magnesium that's necessary, it's going to take a while.
Yes.
So in the meantime, it's great to have something that works really fast. And I've used Cuprum on those eye twitches, and I see it working. Within a few minutes, it stops. So it's pretty amazing.
Okay. At this juncture, once again, you are a registered pharmacist, and you are making specific claims for these homeopathic medicines. Can you explain why you can legally do that in the United States?
So all those products that's why we call them medicine. They're regulated as drugs by the FDA. So, and it's not a recent thing, it's from 1938. And it means that everything from the manufacture, even from the collecting the plant or the animal extract, everything is FDA regulated. They look into everything we're doing. We have to comply with all their requirements. Because from the manufacturing to the labeling, and they tell us what we can put on the label. So that's why it differentiates us from herbs and vitamins, which are wonderful, but it's just a different category.
Yes.
So those are medicine. It's very important. When I talk to physicians, when they don't know about homeopathy or very little about it, they're always surprised, and they like it. They like the fact that those are medicines.
Yes. Let me just take a little short station identification. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and our guest is Raphael Cohen-Bakri, registered pharmacist, the educator for boron homeopathic medicines. And today we're discussing sports injuries and what can be done using homeopathic medicines.
So that was for Cuprum and for cramping. Now, everything that's also... it can be cramping and muscle stiffness, but more related to exercising. So number one is our Arnica montana, which is from the mountain daisy. It's
Arnica montana from the mountain daisy. Now, Arnica montana, I believe, is the best-selling homeopathic medicine worldwide. Is that correct?
I think it is. Yes. It's so well known. It's so efficient. It works for from a little kid to elderly. It's a very popular medicine.
And you said it's from the flower, the mountain daisy.
The mountain daisy, yes. It comes in several presentations. You can either use topically the Arnica gel, and it's like everything we do. We don't put any additives, so it's just plain, extract from the flower, from the plant, and you just rub it on the area that's either sore or stiff, painful, swollen. So that's why it works so well for after exercising. The only restriction, if there's no reason here, but for other usage, if the skin is broken, you don't put it on the wound because it can be a little bit irritating. So all around, it comes also in pellets the same way I was talking about cuprum. You can also have your Arnica montana in pellets. And I don't see, for people watching us, I think it's always good to remind them how to.
Yes.
So what you do, you just turn it upside down. You turn the cap. One pellet drops. You need 5. And then you don't even need to touch them. You just put them under the tongue. And it's just a little bit sweet. Again, nothing else besides arnica. And you do that, I would say, 3 times a day, roughly. It can be more. If you're really, really sore, you can do it even more.
And it's good. And also, if my back hurts from playing too much tennis or golfing, then the Arnica montana lotion on the back, and also the tablets, say 5 tablets, 2, 3, 4 times a day.
Yes.
And that should help me. How soon?
You're going to feel it really quick. Like, all the homeopathic medicine that we're using, let's say for an acute condition, something that just happened, or not something chronic, you're gonna see an improvement really quickly. I would say within a few minutes. But then for it to fully work, maybe it's gonna take maybe a couple of hours, and you're gonna repeat it to maintain the efficacy of the product.
And this is Arnica montana. Now let's just very quickly. The Arnica montana is a 6C. So please just, if you don't mind, what's the difference between a 6C or a 30C or a 200C?
So the thing about, that's what we call dilution. It's not that it's confusing for people, but it's
a little confusing.
You have to approach it a little bit differently than 500 milligrams or 1 gram. We used to thinking the more I take, the better.
Yes.
The more, which is not true anyway, because you don't want to take too much, not too much aspirin. But that's, unfortunately, you think the more, the better. So homeopathy is very different because it doesn't fight anything in your body. It just works with your body to recover better. It speeds up the recovery. If you have a bruise, it's going to go away, right? It's not going to stay there forever. Right. Muscle stiffness is going to go away. But you want to do it better and quicker. And that's what homeopathy does. So it's not the more, the better. It's just the right medicine at the right time.
The right medicine at the right time.
The dilution is more fine-tuning. So once you know what you need, if you're a little bit more knowledgeable, you might even get a better result with the exact dilution. But it's never wrong. You're never going to do a mistake. If you take a 6 when maybe you should have taken a 30, it's still going to work. Maybe a little bit less, or you're going to have to take it more often. So the number is just, the higher the number, the more diluted the medicine has been. Doesn't mean that it's not powerful or anything. It's just a different target. And what we say to make it, to try to simplify a little bit, because keep in mind, those medicines are OTC, over the counter, meaning people can just go to Whole Foods or any health food stores or to the pharmacy and just get whatever they want without necessarily talking to a physician.
Yes, that's right.
But then you have physicians and also other healthcare practitioners who go through specific trainings to become homeopath. And I think for those people, it's very important to know all the different dilutions. For us in the public, you basically just remember, if it's very local, if your issue is local and very acute.
Acute meaning happening right now.
Right now, yes. Or, it has been going on for a few days, but not something that you've been,
not
dealing
chronic.
with. No.
Yes.
You're going to take a small number.
Like a 6C.
6C is perfect for that kind of, that's why we said cuprum 6C for the cramping, because it's local, it's acute, obviously, it just happened. So small number, it's going to work better. If you only have 30C in your cabinet, use it. You're not going to say, it's not. So, but just to make it a little bit simpler, it just happened, or it happens recently, it's more local, I'm going to take a small number if I have the choice. If it becomes more general, or if you even have like maybe anxiety, really like even behavior involved, or fever that really engage the whole body, you're going to go for a bigger number. That's just to make it simple. I'd like to
thank you.
stop there,
that's
because
very
then
good. Thank you.
But that's a little bit how it works.
Well, thank you. No, that's important to know. And
It
as
is.
you've been chatting with me on a regular basis about homeopathy, I like to think that I know a little bit more now. So
I hope so.
thank you for the explanation. Good. So now the listeners of Here's Your Health understand that.
The other thing I always want to, especially for the talking more about the acute thing, because I think for chronic, it's not that it's more difficult, but I would really seek the advice of someone who has been trained in homeopathy, because
So give me an example or several examples. What is a chronic problem that the listeners would think, okay, this is not an acute problem. This is not a now problem. I've had this for a while. Tell me, what's a chronic problem?
could be arthritis.
Arthritis.
Arthritis,
All right.
you can treat it. You can relieve the pain and the discomfort with arnica.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that has been going on for a long time, so
Yes.
it's not going to go away like a bump, obviously. This can be depression. This could be sleeplessness that has been going on for a long time. You're not going to treat the sleeplessness that happens once in a while the same way as you're going to do it for someone who's chronically,
Yes.
sleep deprived, because maybe there's something else. Maybe you want to consider the person as a whole and see what's going on, and treat other things that are happening. That's why I think you just get a better result if you go and see someone who's really homeopath trained in clinical homeopathy. That's what I would do. But it's
That seems like very good advice. Sure.
but
So arthritis is a chronic problem, and the sleeplessness of a long term is a chronic problem. And they
Everything
seem
can-
different because
yes.
arthritis is hurting my elbow, and sleeplessness is more. Maybe people think it's emotional, and even that you said depression, obviously emotional. And so homeopathy will treat all these. If they are
Different,
long term
yes.
problems, it can still address them.
yeah, of course, asthma. Chronic eczema is different than from a little itch you have, and so almost everything can become chronic if you don't treat it or not. But
And if something has been chronic, then I could use a higher dilution of 200C, for example, and that might be more appropriate than if I just sort of bang my knee with a hammer and I'm going to use a 6 or something. Is that right?
yes,
Is that fair? Is
that's
that
fair.
simplifying?
But also, even in a chronic situation, you can have acute symptoms that you want to take care of
Yes.
right now. So that's why it's a little bit more interesting to see a physician, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes. Get good guidance. Yes, I completely agree.
So that's for our arnica. And there's another medicine that unfortunately is not very well known. At least maybe not athletes know it. It's called sportnin.
Sportine.
Sportnin.
Okay.
And the presentation is unique. It's the only medicine that we have. Those are chewing tablets. I don't know if you can open it. But and it's specifically something that you can take during the exercise or afterwards. And they're pretty good, actually. They're just a little bit lemony. I'll tell you about what's inside,
Yes.
but it's good for cramping due to exercising, muscle stiffness, and also improves your stamina, which is something that you want, especially if you're like a runner. So what you do, you can take it during the exercise if it's a prolonged exercise. If you're just going to exercise for half an hour, there's no reason. You take it afterwards.
Wait, are you saying that, let us say we're working with a marathon runner. Do you feel that this Sportine, given to a marathon runner before they start an event and during the event and maybe towards the end of the event, it gives them more stamina? Is that what you really feel?
The way
Wow.
it's hard to define stamina.
Yes,
but
it is.
I think, to be fair, the way I think it works, it's because it's going to delay the muscle stiffness and the fatigue, the muscular fatigue. You're going to be able to run longer. It's not going to change.
Whoa, that seems like a nice aid for the athlete.
It's a great It's a great formula. It has arnica. It has zinc, which is also zincum oxidatum, because we have several zincum. It's a salt from a zinc salt, but it helps with all the lower back pain and the fatigue. And it has sarcolacticum acidum, which is a dilution of lactic acid. So we're going back to lactic acid and what it does to your muscles. And it has dextrose, which is going to give you energy. So it's a great formulation. I recommend to stay below 6 tablets per day, because I think dextrose, if you take too much, it can dehydrate a little bit too.
Yes.
So very pleasant taste. It's easy to carry. So even if you're a runner, you can just take the tube in your pocket or.
Well, that seems like a very nice little aid for the athlete who's looking for an advantage without taking drugs.
Actually, and I was looking at statistic. It's a lot of people exercise regularly. I was surprised. In the U.S., it's very common.
I think it's roughly 30% of the population.
It is, and I think it's big.
Yeah, that 30% is good. You would kind of hope it would be more than 30%, but still 30% is significant.
Regularly, I think it's excellent. And a lot of those people are looking. They're taking supplements. They're taking those drinks or and this is something that really they should consider, because again it's very safe, non-doping, non-stimulating. I'm repeating myself, but I think it's so unique. It's
important to thank you for repeating that.
And it's a wonderful little product. Young people really like it too. Tastes good.
Raphael, where can we contact you and Boron Homeopathic Medicines? How do we contact you?
The best, I think, is the website, because it gives you all the phone line and everything. It's www.boironusa.com.
Boron is spelled how?
B as in boy, OIRON as in Nancy. So boironusa.com. There's even a store locator. So you key in your zip code and tells you where you can buy. Really, arnica is pretty easy to find.
Yes.
It's hard not to find it.
That's very good. We have been speaking with Raphael Cohen-Bakri, registered pharmacist, educator for Boron Homeopathic Medicines. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and you're listening to us today on the LA Talk Live radio network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hands can do incredible things. They made every sound in this piece of music. But nothing compares to using them to help save a life. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. Visit handsonlycpr.org today. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our next guest is from Silver Biotic. His name is Keith Moeller. And Silver Biotics is an important silver compound that has been used for a very long time for healing. And Keith, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Happy to have you here. So you have a silver product. Am I correct? It's silver.
Correct.
And silver products have been around for a very long time. Is that not correct?
Thousands of years. They've used them for thousands of years.
And they were very popular in the United States in the teens and 20s and 30s, weren't they? I mean, they were really widely used over-the-counter products.
Correct. A lot of them were used as an adjunct to antibiotics or as an antibiotic alternative. They were used as a heavy antimicrobial. Silver has a natural ability to kill bacteria. And so they were used very heavily for a lot of years as a disinfectant, for wounds, for many other things. They had a variety of names. Usually they had very high amounts of silver in them.
What were the names in the United States in the 20s and 30s? Were there? I mean, and by the way, did the U.S. Army and such use these as well?
Oh, yeah. Most of them that people used were like silver nitrate. Silver nitrate is still used in the hospitals.
Yes, it is silver nitrate.
All over.
Oh, it's similar to this?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know.
No. What we're talking about is silver in general.
I see. Oh.
Silver is used in a variety of ways. There's hundreds of medical products right now that are approved that are cleared or approved by the FDA that are silver-based.
Uh-huh.
What we're talking about today, though, is a silver supplement and a cosmetic.
All righty. So then what is the difference of the Silver Biotics product? What is your product?
Well, traditionally, most of the silver products have been ionic products. And ionic products work because they can still an electron. It has a +1 charge, which means it can still an electron. Once it does that, it's one and done. It's happy in its state. It's of no longer any use. And that's the basis for most of the products that exist. The colloidal silvers, the even silver nitrate that's used in medical purposes. They're almost all ionic forms of silver. What we did early on was we were trying to make silver much more stable. And by making it stable, we thought we could make, much better products. What we did, and we actually think it was more of a gift. We're pretty smart. But
nice to be smart. Yeah.
By accident.
Nice to be lucky too, really.
Yeah, by accident or by gift or whatever, what we created was a new nanoparticle of silver. Now, the new nanoparticle had multiple modes of action where regular silver didn't. For example, this particle, if you think of it almost like a BB, it's not, but if you think of it like a BB, around this BB is a very thin skin. And on the outside, it has an Ag404 coating, which is a multivalent silver oxide. In English, what that means is it has multiple modes of action. Where regular silver can still an electron, this little baby can still 8. And then it pulls it into the core and it can still 8 more. Like the catalytic converter in your car, this particle can keep functioning, which means we can do a lot of things that regular silver hasn't been able to do. And we've also been able to do things that, we work really hard at science. We have more than 300 major studies from more than 60 different institutions. I've worked with the U.S. NIH.
You have?
Yeah, on our stuff. I have stuff with the U.S. military. And the gel that you see in front of you, we've donated thousands of tubes of that over the years to SOMA, the Special Operations Medical Group. Those guys work really hard. They're out in the field. They're out there every day. And so we donate a lot of product to those guys. In fact, we're members of the Special Operations Medical Association. But
that's very nice.
What we do is we work really hard at the science part. And what we found is that we could boost the immune system with the silver biotics. And what it is this nano silver technology at a 10 ppm level. And at that level, we found we could do some very extraordinary things.
So you're saying your silver product has 10 parts per million.
Correct. We can make it at a number of levels. For example, the gel is actually 24. But
These gels over here.
Yes, correct. Now, if you put a little bit on that on your skin, you're going to find it's clear, it's clean, and what it'll do up front, it'll hydrate your skin very quickly. It'll make it incredibly soft.
Oh, really?
And women love that. We brought that gel out 3.5 years ago, and we sold more than 1.6 million tubes without really any advertising.
Whoa.
Once a woman gets it in her hands, we have her forever. She's ours. She's not going back. But what it does is it'll do a number of things. In a study we did with partners in Japan, women who put it on underneath their makeup,
Yes.
they put it on morning and night, found that they had a 17% reduction in facial blemish, a natural healing effect, in only 2 months. And so
Wow, that's significant.
guys use it like me because we're out and about. You work out, you have to touch stuff. You put the gel on your hands. Not only does it make it incredibly soft, but it will give you a layer of protection, and we have to say it like that. It will give you a layer that will help protect your skin for about 4 hours. So if you're working out, we have a lot of clients all over the world who use that. In fact, last year we sold 50,000 tubes to a group that sells it to the Kuwaiti Army. We sold,
really?
in December, we
Wow.
sold 1,000 tubes of that to the top security lab in the U.S. Number one high security lab in the U.S. bought 1,000 tubes. And I said, you want this one instead of our prescription product? And they said, yeah, we want that one. And I said, okay.
Wow.
So, and I think they found it very advantageous to have it in their system. And so one of the things that we can do for people is we can provide a first line of defense. If you look at the Silver Biotics, what that's going to do, you drink a little bit every day, you find that you stay healthy. You find that it's able to help boost your immune system, and you just don't get sick.
And how much would you suggest an adult, male or female, drink of the Silver Biotics liquid?
Most of them find that if they take just a teaspoon or two a day,
A
they're
teaspoon
good to go.
or two.
Correct.
In mixed in a little bit of water?
Nah, you can, but you really don't need to. My kids, when they were small, they called it water on a spoon, especially if they started feeling bad or they ate something that didn't quite agree with them. Settle down their stomach, do some great things for them. They would just call it water on a spoon. They drink some. Has no negative flavor, and it's really easy to take. A little bit in the morning, a little bit at night. You go out, you do all the things you're going to do, and you don't worry about it.
And this is, what kind of silver is this again?
This is a nano metallic silver particle, and you can boil it, you can freeze it. We have it in really hundreds of products, and it's an additive that many people buy from us to put in their products. So it's pretty amazing. I think the biggest thing we do is we give you a first line of defense that you can have at your house right now. I mean, if you think about the listeners that you have, or yourself, what do you have in your house right now if there's some problem that hits the U.S.? What do you have to help protect you and your family?
Prayer book, really, I think.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
No, and I think prayer is incredibly
I know,
effective.
right.
And
But other than that, no, really.
we talked
not too
earlier
much,
about
really.
it being a gift.
Not too much, yeah.
But what we're talking about is something you can have in your house right now that can give you a first line of defense. So if something bad happens, or everyday life, yesterday we were here. We were in an earthquake.
Yes, we had an earthquake. That's right. It was exciting. Right?
And I
We
was
had one, yes.
sitting in my hotel room, and I was studying a medical book. And as I was sitting there, all of a sudden the table started to shake, and I thought, this is dang cool. I come to California, I experienced the real live fair.
Yeah. Well, you have a good sense of it. That's nice of you to feel that way.
No, I was actually excited. The whole place was moving. I looked over one of my sons. I have 5 sons and a daughter. One of them was on the chair, and the chair was moving. I looked at him. He was smiling. So I thought, this is a great place to be. And if you look at it, our stuff is not a big secret. You don't hear us out there banging on drums. You don't hear us out there making big announcements, doing a lot of stuff like that. But we work really hard with more than 300 major studies on our stuff alone from more than 60 different institutions. There's a lot of stuff we can do, and we work hard. For example, we had to make sure that everything was really safe. So we have more than 23 different safety studies, ingested studies, injected studies. In fact, just recently, we finished the first ever in the history of the world double-blind, IRB board-controlled, FDA-cleared human ingestion study, which showed that if you drink the silver, if you drink our silver, what it'll do is it'll hit its apex in your blood or highest level within 2 hours and wash completely out of your body in 24. We know that it goes in, does its job, helps boost your immune system, and boom, it's gone. Now, as part of that study, before the huge university that did it, before they would do it, the IRB board, which is an internal review board, what they said is, we're not sure your stuff's good. We need to have somebody come in who's taken it for a long time, and we need to test them first. And so they said, we'll let you do a small study, a 3-day study, and then if that works, we'll let you do a 5-day study and so forth. But they said somebody's got to come in first and be under our scrutiny. We're going to test them. And so my company was kind enough to volunteer me.
I thought so, yes.
And,
I thought so, right.
And I've been drinking probably 5 to, 20 or 30 ounces a week for about 16 years. And so I stopped 3 days before I went in. And
they asked you to stop?
No, I just stopped. Okay, I stopped taking any so that I knew it would be able to clear my body because of the other work we had done. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what happened was they took me in, they poked me, took my blood, checked my oxygen levels, checked all of the enzyme levels, and then they put me in this MRI, which was, for me and my broad shoulders, was like being a bullet in a gun.
I'll bet.
I had to close my eyes and go to my happy place because when I opened my eyes, that plastic was about this far, and you're belted in. You can't move.
That can be very, very confrontational, couldn't it, be strapped in like that?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So I just closed my eyes, went to my happy place, and I was in that stupid machine for about 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And you can't move. You're belted in. And so if you've ever hit your elbow and you feel that feeling, that's kind of the feeling you start to get in your whole body because you're strapped down and you can't move. But the important part of the whole thing was that they were able to check my entire abdominal tract for any silver that over the years has been deposited, which is the biggest thing that people talk about. You take silver product, it can deposit in your system.
You mean some silver products can, but not yours?
Correct.
Yes.
And so what we proved was that this one cannot. It goes in, does its job, washes out. Now, we sell it all over the planet. In fact, we have sold more than 10 million units of silver worldwide.
Wow. Okay.
And we have different, in other countries, we can get approvals that we can't get here. And so we have a lot of approvals like in, actually, in a number of places that you wouldn't think of, like India. We have a lot of, I have a partner there that sells the gel, and they sell about 400,000 or 500,000 tubes a month.
And what would they be using it for in India, just in general?
Okay, for India, you have 3 different grades of silver products that we make, right? Now, this one that's in front of you in the gel, that's a cosmetic form. In that form, we claim that it helps promote natural healing, right?
Yes.
You put it on your skin, it helps protect your skin, makes it incredibly soft, helps promote natural healing. And then you have OTC versions, which I have in a sister company, and the over-the-counter versions can make antimicrobial claims, and it can make claims on helping to heal wounds, regular stuff like cuts and burns and things like that.
You're allowed to say that?
Correct.
Yep.
On that specific product only that's cleared for over-the-counter use. And then you have a third designation, which is under prescription. In the U.S., one of our sister companies called ABL Medical has a prescription called Silverstat.
ABM Medical.
ABL.
ABL Medical.
Alpha Beta Lucy.
Okay.
Okay, ABL Medical has a prescription. Now, under that prescription, it can make a lot of claims that we can't on these versions.
Yes.
And I mean, under prescription, they use it in hospitals for surgical wounds, grafted sites, diabetic ulcers, and they can make direct claims on really nasty bacteria. Some of the nastiest that are in hospitals, which really are not very tough for the silver to handle.
Good.
So, I think that our goal is actually to change the medicinal history of the world through a variety of means
That's
to
a
solve
nice
people's
goal,
problems.
isn't it? Good for you.
You know, and the funny part is we actually believe we can do it and are doing it. We work worldwide. We have groups that we do business with in South America. I have groups in Africa where they've been taking it in for humanitarian use and under a number of other uses. So we kind of think of ourselves as the kings of silver. And with hundreds of studies, we'll come out with a lot more products as well. In fact, the gel that you have in front of you, I sell it to biological dentists who brush their teeth with it. We're coming out with a version that's got just a little bit of mint or something in it. And the fun part, the really cool part in it throws you off.
What will it do for the teeth?
Well,
or the gums, or both?
You're going to brush it in. It's going to clean them, right? It's going to help clean them. But when you wake up in the morning, the part that always throws me is I wake up in the morning and I go like this, you know, run your tongue over your teeth.
Yes.
It's still squeaky clean.
Ah.
You wake up, you don't have the morning breath thing, and it throws me every time. But
boy, that'd be a big market for that.
Yeah, it also makes it so it soothes your gums. It promotes really healthy gums. And we have a lot of, I think it was December, we were actually in the Pro Dentist, the Progressive Dentist. We were the cover article with two of the top dentists in the country, one from LVI, and which is the Las Vegas Institute, one of the advanced teaching ones. But this little teeny silver company out of Utah was on the cover of the Pro Dentist because we're bringing in a whole bunch of technologies using the silver that we can really help people in a huge way. So
wow.
it's spreading very quickly through a lot of areas, and we work hard at it. We know our stuff.
Well, Keith, at this point, for those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. We're chatting with Keith, the president and founder of Silver Biotics. How can we buy these? Where can we buy them? Give us your website and who carries them.
Okay, the Silver Biotics line and the gels are found in most quality health food stores, stuff like GNC. We just signed a contract with Vitamin Shop.
Oh, great. They're great.
There's a whole bunch of other ones, but there's a lot of great ones. I think we're probably in 10,000 health food stores across the U.S.
Good for
you.
You
can always find it online. I think last year we sold about 1.5 million bottles of product.
Oh my goodness.
So you can find it online, and not only do we work really hard at being the most educated and the most tested supplement that exists, but we also have some of the lowest prices. So if you look at the whole silver category, we've always had a goal to keep our prices down where people could afford to get it, where you could afford to bring it in your house and use it with your family.
Can you give us a website? Give us a website.
Yeah. You can go to silverbiotics.com.
Could you spell that for us?
Yeah. silverbiotics.com. Or you can just go to ablsilver.com. That's Alpha Beta Lucy silver.com.
Well, that's actually remarkable. Let me ask you maybe slightly a silly question, or maybe less serious, but still serious to some. So as we get older, let's say having problems with skin, wrinkling, etc. of the skin, will the Silver Biotics theoretically make the skin a little plumper, a little more youthful?
Well, what we talked about on that, if you're talking about skin, you want to talk about the health or the gel. And what you're talking about is the ASAP 365 gel. The ASAP gel, we call it as soon as possible, right? ASAP gel.
Good for you.
And so you put it on, and what it's going to do is it's going to make your skin incredibly soft. It's a hydrogel, which means that it's going to hydrate. So will it plump up your skin just a little? Yes. But if you put it on, the first thing you're going to notice, it's going to make it incredibly soft. And then it has a really soothing effect. I actually sell that. I was surprised when we started selling it that we're We had hundreds, actually several thousand doctors that started buying it directly from us. In fact, we created a whole new line just for the docs. But they use a lot with their patients, and the claim we make on it is that it helps promote natural healing. Now, if you use it every day on your skin, it's going to help do that. Like I said, we did a study in Japan. You had a 17% reduction in facial blemish in about 2 months. That's why the women love us. You put it on, makes it incredibly soft. I mean, baby soft. And then it gives them that ability to heal up their skin, to help heal their skin
And then,
in
of
a
course,
natural way.
Baby soft means healthier skin.
Correct.
Right.
And it will last on your skin for hours. Now, we did the test, and it will not penetrate to your bloodstream, stays in the outside layers, and
Really?
slowly it'll scrape off.
That's interesting.
One of the biggest problems that women now have, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. We go to a lot of beauty shows, and we have to teach women, but they're making a lot more ingredients now or makeup that is nutrient-rich.
Yes.
What happens when you put a lot of nutrients in something is you also tend to grow bad stuff. And so
really? That's your
these
opinion?
things, as the
I see.
nutrient value goes up, you have more of a tendency to grow yeast and fungus and bacteria in those same products. In fact, one of them recently told me that she has to throw hers away like every month or 2 months because they start to get an odor. But what we're talking about is the ability to take something, put it on before you put on your makeup, and put it on a layer that will help protect your skin while your makeup is on. And not only that, it makes your skin soft and it helps promote natural healing of your actual skin.
You know, I didn't realize how important a product this was. I like to apologize for you. I did not realize it. Now, I always knew it was good for skin issues, like little cuts and burns and wounds. You know, that I knew. But I just didn't know the other stuff. I just had no idea you guys had this kind of influence.
Oh, I think what we're covering is the tip of the iceberg. And I think as we go along, our goals are actually to help you solve a lot of the problems that you have with your kids,
right? With
your grandkids, with your, to give you a first line of defense. The first thing you reach for when you go in, if it's a skin issue, you want to reach for the gel, the ASAP 365. If it's an internal issue, you want to have some in your house right there. It gives you that first line of defense, and that's what Silver Biotics and the ASAP 365 do.
And the liquid silver that you consume a teaspoon or two a day. So is that for what age and over, or is it what age? What age you recommend on that one?
According to the FDA guidelines under supplements, you cannot say that any infant can use a product or a pregnant woman.
Alrighty.
But other than that, we're good because it goes in, it washes right out. Children, women. One of the studies we did with a group in Africa, they had kids from 1 year old to little old ladies who are like 90. Mm-hmm. And they actually did peer-reviewed published studies on those people who took it in Africa.
Yes.
They were using, there's studies that exist that are much more serious studies. Mm-hmm. Things like Penn State. We did one with the US NIH lab on H5N1 bird flu. We're hoping to boost the immune system,
right,
so that we could show that if you could boost the immune system even against a pathogen, which we're not making claims on here today.
Yes. But that was tested where?
That was tested at a US NIH lab at Utah State University.
They tested your product for that issue, that serious issue.
Correct. Now, that is a published study. We won't go over it today because we don't want to talk about the results. But it was a really cool study. It's public data. Because it's public data, people have access to it, but I, as the owner of the study, actually can't use it right now because it makes claims we can't make. When that study was published, the guys from Penn State, one of the top material scientists in the entire world, a guy, man, I really loved hanging out with him. His name was Rustam Roy. Now, a great scientist will publish in his lifetime maybe 100 or 200 studies. This guy produced more than 2,000 studies.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize 23 times. Now, when we turned that study into the H5N1 bird flu study, when we turned that in for peer review, for publication, what they did was they did their own HIV study, and they did a human HIV study. And they did with a big college out of India. So when our study was published, we went to read it, and holy smokes, on the front of it is what they called the editor's note. And what it was a study on helping to boost the immune system of people with full-blown HIV. And I recommend the study. It's very stunning. There's a lot of parts of it that I can't cover here, but I think we can say that some very, very positive things happen, that the T cell count over 4 months, they were using the 10 ppm. They used about 2 ounces a day in divided doses. They divided the 2 ounces into 3 doses. Over the study, they had a 39.54% increase in their T lymphocyte count.
That's very, very.
That's huge. And what it did was it actually showed that we do, in fact, have the ability to help boost the immune system. And so
with a safe and inexpensive product.
Correct.
Wow.
And so we've now talked about half a dozen studies out of more than, I think I'm probably at 375. So when we say we have a lot of info and we work hard at it, we really do. And we really just love helping people, solving problems. We just dig in. We love figuring out ways to do things.
This is remarkable. Once again, give us your contact information.
Okay. Yeah. You can visit the website at either silverbiotics.com, silverbiotics.com, or it's very simple to go to ABL, Alpha Beta Lucy, ablsilver.com.
Well, Keith Moeller, I very much am thrilled, actually, you were here today. A very interesting presentation on a product that people kind of know about, but not the way you describe it. So it's kind of remarkable. Hopefully we'll have you on again. This is Josh Lane. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Radio Network. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Thank you.
Suffer from degenerative diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, fibroid tumors, high cholesterol, genital herpes, or a plethora of other diseases that rob you of a quality life? If so, then visit the website of herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra at dhealthstore.com and open the door to natural healing at an affordable price. dhealthstore.com has over 1,800 products created by herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra, specifically designed to help you heal the natural and safe way. At dhealthstore.com, you'll find everything from herbal formulas and cleanses, such as Tahuti's famous Full Body Detox, as well as herbal teas, extracts, natural body butters, lotions, creams, children's products, hair care products, and of course, sexual enhancement products for both men and women. So visit the website of Tahuti Ma'atra, dhealthstore.com, or call toll-free at 1-888-823-9416, dhealthstore.com.
Are you ready to enjoy the Maui lifestyle? You can have it all by owning real estate on the Paradise Island of Maui. Dennis Rush, a 22-year Maui resident and real estate broker, brings his wealth of experience and market knowledge to add value to your Maui real estate understanding, providing a level of service as unique and exceptional as the island of Maui itself. The magical island of Maui was voted the most exclusive resort island in the world by Condé Nast Traveler, and keep in mind, Maui is only a simple, non-stop flight away. Hawaii Business Magazine Top 100 Realtors awarded Dennis Rush the 2011 fourth top realtor on the island of Maui. Go to www.dennisrush.com to view all of the amazing properties currently available in the Maui MLS system. Whatever your needs or desires, Dennis Rush will provide a private consultation for any Maui properties your heart desires. You will be in good hands. Once again, go to www.dennisrush.com. That's www.dennisrush.com. Contact Dennis today to start your Maui lifestyle now. Dennis Rush, proud sponsors of the Dawn Christie Show and LA Talk Live.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bay back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bay Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bay Show, exclusively on latalklive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Hi, this is Raphael Cohen-Bakri on Here's to Your Health, and today I'm bringing you a guest who's Dr. Kerry Mahirani. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. And I'm just going to say how we met. You've been around, I've been doing this job for a number of years, and I've seen your office, for a long time in Culver City. But recently you started to really get into homeopathy.
Correct.
And getting education, and I hope you like it. But that's how we really got to know each other. And you have a very interesting practice. So I wanted you to come today and explain a little bit what you're doing and how people can get in touch with you.
I'd love to.
So where is your practice?
I'm in Culver City, California.
Mm-hmm. And what's the name of your practice?
It's Harani Wellness Medical Center.
Makes sense. And would you mind telling us all the options? It's alternative center. That's how you would describe it. Alternative medicine center.
Yeah, it's an integrative. I like to call it an integrative medicine clinic. Mm-hmm. I'm a board certified family physician, mm-hmm. and I have a master's in nutrition. So I integrate a lot of nutrition into my practice.
And you see all kinds of patients, or more kids or families?
I do see a lot of children. They do make up about 50% of my population.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So I see a lot of ADHD and a lot of autism, and then just children with allergies and skin problems and GI problems, etc. And then I see adults too with hormonal problems, chronic fatigue, GI problems again, etc.
And what are all the options you're offering in the clinic? How do you choose if you're going to approach more someone with nutrition or homeopathy, or is it a combination of everything?
I look at diet a lot,
mm-hmm.
and I utilize an elimination diet with a lot of my patients.
Can you explain that a little?
Certainly. With the children, even children with really bad eczema, or children with autism or ADHD, we have a lot of success with the gluten-free, casein-free diet, and of course cutting out the sugar. So that's an elimination diet.
Well, you say of course, but for a lot of people it's not obvious that cutting sugar is gonna. But you see a lot of improvement. All kinds of sugar or more refined sugar?
Really good question. With my patient population, pretty much all sugars are a problem, even fruit juices. So they're very inflammatory. So we have them remove fruit juices, refined carbohydrates. So it's really asking the parents to eat a more whole foods diet.
And talking with parents, can you assess what's the nutrition is at least in our area? Do you think it's pretty good or pretty bad, or are there a lot of, I come from France, so I see a lot of things that don't make sense for me, but what do you think?
Well, I see patients from all over, the Southland. And in general, a lot of parents really don't realize that their children are eating so much sugar in their diets. So there's a lot of, I don't want to say ignorance, but there's just, a lot of
It's
parents
tricky.
just don't know.
It's not easy
Yes.
to understand what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's for nutrition. And didn't you say that you do hormone replacement?
Yes. So with the adults, we also do an elimination diet, and I find I have them eliminate for 3 weeks all wheat and dairy and corn and sugar and caffeine and alcohol and
That's tough.
and eggs, and it's amazing the kind of results I see from fatigue to depression. IBS, I mean, just so many symptoms just improve dramatically with just an elimination diet.
And do you do it, everything, you eliminate everything that you just mentioned, or do you do it little by little? Like this week we're going to remove eggs, or?
No, actually it's 3 weeks of eliminating the whole shebang. And then after 3 weeks, I'll have them reintroduce these foods in again, one at a time. Assuming that they've already had improvement, in the 3 weeks that they've eliminated these foods, then they would reintroduce these foods one day at a time to see if it would trigger those same symptoms again. And if it does, then lo and behold, we've found our culprit.
Oh, so that's the goal. The goal is to identify. It doesn't mean that they're not going to eat those foods forever, right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So what we find is once we've discovered that, say, for example, in a lot of migraine cases, I find sugar is the problem. So when the patient realizes that sugar is the problem, they'll drastically cut back on the sugar, and then we'll find that maybe after 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, they can reintroduce that food again into their diet, but on a limited basis, not daily or large amounts.
That's a topic that really interests me. My dad and my mom also have suffered from migraines since they were teenagers, I think. So it was always something very heavy in the every weekend they would stay in bed one after the other. And they did try to identify what could cause it, but it's difficult. I think maybe they were not drastic enough. That maybe it's that, but then they would give up. So
yeah.
But you think you can almost treat all migraines with food?
I've had really good results. I also do testing. So I do IgG food antibody testing. And we also test for celiac and gluten intolerance.
Okay.
And sometimes the patient might be gluten intolerant. And once they cut out the gluten, their migraine headaches go away.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So the testing is very helpful too. So we use a lot of what's called functional medicine tests.
Oh, can you explain what functional medicine is? It's a growing area from what I hear, but it's hard for me to explain.
Sure. So Mark Hyman is a physician who's responsible for bringing functional medicine to the forefront. He's been on TED presentations and he's written some books, and he's a functional medicine doctor. And functional medicine is basically patient-centered instead of disease-centered. So conventional medicine just focuses on the individual disease or organ systems, and functional medicine focuses on the patient. So it's patient-centered, and instead of just prescribing drugs to treat the symptoms, functional medicine looks to find the cause of the illness. And so we utilize, like I said, elimination diets. We might utilize certain supplements, and then we utilize a lot of functional medicine tests that are aimed at trying to help get to the bottom of why the patient is sick.
But do you also use conventional medicines?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how old would you say this, functional medicine is? When did it start, at least here?
The father of functional medicine is really Jeffrey Bland, and he's a big PhD in nutritional biochemistry. And I think, he's been around and he's been trying to educate physicians like myself for probably around 30 years now.
So it's not that recent.
It's not that recent.
So did you did follow? Is it like seminars? Is it more like a
Yes.
school? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've been a member of Functional Medicine Update, and I've attended various different seminars and workshops, and so yeah.
And it's only for physicians, right?
I've seen acupuncturists there,
Okay.
I've seen nutritionists, I've seen chiropractors there. So.
You do acupuncture?
No, I
No,
don't.
you don't.
Not yet. Homeopathy is what I'm trying to tackle now. So I find homeopathy to be really complementary to what I do with nutrition.
It seems to be, when you said, treating the patient, it's really what homeopathy does.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be learning it,
Mm-hmm.
and to be using it already in my practice.
That's wonderful. So first of all, how do patients find you?
The two main sources are the internet,
Okay.
and patient referrals.
Do you want to give your website?
Sure, it's www.drhirani.com. drhirani.com.
And you accept new patients?
I am.
Okay. Excellent. So let's say patient comes, I just want to see how it works. A patient comes to your office. How long would last, for example, the first,
Okay.
visit?
So the adult new patient visit is an hour and a half.
Okay.
Because the functional medicine doctor, makes you the center of the focus of the issues, I spend a lot of time interviewing the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So beforehand, the patient fills out an 11-page health history questionnaire.
At home?
At home,
okay.
before they come. And I have asked the patient to tell me all kinds of information, like, were you breastfed? Was your mother under stress during pregnancy with you? So I ask a lot of interesting questions that patients have never been asked before.
Are they willing to answer those questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, of course, I have a full 24-hour diet history. So I want to know what they're eating. I want to know what food cravings they have. Or aversions. I ask them a lot. So
it's an hour and a half with the patient, but you have to also read all that, so it's much longer for you, the whole.
No, I can. I usually spend about an hour interviewing the patient and doing a complete, thorough physical exam, and then I spend the last half hour making recommendations for them, whether it's the elimination diet, the functional medicine tests, and then certain supplements.
And I guess you're going to follow up with them on a regular basis, right?
So what we'll do is, depending on the tests that we've ordered, I could see them back within 2 weeks, or some of the tests can take 4 weeks. So I'll either see them back in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks, and then we'll go over all of the lab results, and I will be making further recommendations. And if it's a patient who's interested in bioidentical hormone replacement, then I will be making recommendations and prescribing hormones for them.
I'd like you to explain a little bit what this is too.
Okay. Yes. Bioidentical hormones?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So my approach to bioidentical hormones is this. As we age, our hormones decline. And for some men and for some women, it can be a non-issue, meaning they don't really have any symptoms. They don't have any mood swings. They don't have any hot flashes or vaginal dryness or decreased libido. And for some people, it can be really significant, where they're experiencing depression and fatigue and loss of self-confidence.
And they don't understand what's going on.
And they don't understand what's going on, and insomnia. So these are the patients that usually come to me. And so while I'm waiting for their lab results to come back, I may have already prescribed them maybe some homeopathy, some natural supplements to balance out their hormones. And if I have achieved success with just these natural remedies, then a lot of patients are happy with just that. But of course, if they are still needing the hormones, then I will prescribe them the bioidentical hormones. And bioidentical means basically it resembles what your own body makes. It's not the synthetic, one-size-fits-all, mass-produced hormones like the Premarin, which is really from horse's urine. And so patients really like that, and generally they seem to do a lot better. They feel a lot better compared to the synthetic hormones. So,
And do you have patients who tried synthetic hormones before and they're looking for something different?
yes, yes, absolutely. And then majority of my patients just will not even take synthetic hormones, so they come
begin with, yeah.
directly to me for the bioidentical hormones.
That's what I was wondering. We often say in homeopathy that sometimes it's a little bit difficult because you get all the desperate cases, people who tried everything, and so they come to you and no easy case, and sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. Do you experience that too, or do you have also people who are really, they want a more natural approach and they go to you first?
A lot of patients come to me, first off because they want a natural approach. And then I have patients who have been suffering with chronic illnesses and they haven't had any success with conventional medicine. So then they come, seeking an integrative medicine doctor.
Is it more difficult for you if they already took, conventional medicines? Is it more difficult to identify the problems?
Yes, sometimes
Yes.
they're more complicated. And this is where the functional medicine doctor comes in because we look at everything. So I look at their stress levels. I offer them nutritional IVs sometimes, which can be really helpful.
What is that?
One really successful nutritional IV is called the Myers cocktail. And it's named after a physician, Dr. Myers. And it's basically B vitamins, a little bit of vitamin C, and magnesium and calcium. And I give that sometimes right off the bat to a new patient because it can help with chronic fatigue, it can help with anxiety, it can help with depression, it can help with upper respiratory tract infections, heart disease, narcotic withdrawal, hyperthyroidism. So you see, a lot of my patients can benefit from this. So if I feel like they need some immediate relief, I might offer that to them right off the bat. And that can sometimes, bring on some good results.
And you do it in the office, right?
Yes, we do nutritional IVs in the office. And then we also offer neurofeedback, which can also help. Neurofeedback is a form of biofeedback, which is training the brain to self-regulate. So some of these really complicated, patients who are needing more than just bioidentical hormones and a little bit of nutritional support, we might work on them in that sense. And we'll also, like I said, I'll make recommendations for stress reduction other than the neurofeedback as well.
You have to do a lot of education with them. I'm just guessing those patients want to know what's happening, right? They're not gonna just pop in pills and
exactly. And physician means to teach.
Yes.
So I love
Yeah.
to teach. As you might know, I teach at USC Medical School. So I teach first and second year medical students. So yes, a lot of the time spent with my patient is really teaching them, educating them, and empowering them to make the right decision for their health.
That's what I experience very often. People are not only they're in pain or they have problems, but they don't understand what's happening to them, and they feel powerless actually just by not knowing. So I think it's wonderful to be able to give them that power over themselves back. And what do you teach at USC?
The course is called Introduction to Clinical Medicine, and physicians like myself in the community who want to teach, we're assigned 6 students, and I have these students for 2 years, and I meet with them once a week for 3.5 hours. And I teach them how to do physical examination, how to interview a patient, how to present their patient cases.
And it's already first year they're already doing
They're
that?
already learning that. So when they get up to the wards, which is in 3rd and 4th year, they're ready to go.
And they have to take the course, or it's just an option for them to?
No, it's mandatory.
It's mandatory.
Yes.
Oh, it's wonderful to do that.
I graduated from USC and I took the course myself. So it's been around for a long time.
Were you born here?
No, I was actually born in East Africa. And then in the 70s, we moved to Canada. I finished high school there, and then my family moved to California. So I've been here ever since.
And you went to USC Medical School,
yes.
which is one of the best schools here, right?
Well, I like to think so.
Yeah. So that's how you approach. I think it's very interesting. Do you get referral from other physicians who might be stuck in the situation and they know you might help?
Yes. I wish there were more physicians who are open-minded, but the few that are open-minded, they definitely refer patients to me.
Going back to your teaching, is that do you think it's also a good way for you to expose those very young students to other ways? Yeah.
Absolutely. They get very little nutrition training. I made them watch a video in their first year, and I would recommend this to your viewers to watch, and that's Dr. Lustig's video on YouTube. It's called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. Dr. Lustig is a physician from the University of San Francisco Department of Endocrinology Medical School. And he goes over the science of how fructose, which isn't sugar, and of course high fructose corn syrup and fruit juices, how toxic it is to the human body and to the liver. And my students were just like amazed. And so when they were writing their evaluations about, well, what stood out for them in first year, it was like Dr. Lustig's video on nutrition. So I do educate them a lot on nutrition.
Is it on your website? Because this video
Correct. It is.
Excellent.
You can find the link from my website.
So you would say that if we can stay away from corn syrup, that's a good idea?
Absolutely. High fructose corn syrup is a no-no.
Yeah, but it's everywhere, right?
It is in everything. So yeah, it's important to read labels, because even bread has high fructose corn syrup in it.
That's the thing, when I came here, I had my nutrition background in France, where we don't use high fructose corn syrup. So I would look into, for example, jams or, preserves, because I was expecting to find it. So I would be but then it's like processed food. It's everywhere, even something that's not supposed to be sweet. So it's difficult to stay away from it. Tell me the name of the doctor again.
Dr. Lustig, Lustig.
Okay, and it's on your website.
Yes.
Give me your website again.
Yes, it's drharani.com, Dr without a period, drharani.com.
Harani is Hirani. Very good. And I think you have a blog too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I like to. I'm constantly educating myself, and I'm always reading magazines and journals. And so if I find something that I think my patients would find interesting as far as health and nutrition and disease, then I'll blog on it.
Yeah, you must be very busy, because I looked at it a few days ago, and the part I liked also, beside the education part, is all the testimonial from your patients. It's very interesting to see the impact you can have on someone.
I have to share a story with you. On Sunday, this past Sunday, I gave a talk on autism to this group called TakaNow.org, which is talking about curing autism now. And so I gave this talk, and
it's a group of parents, or
it's put together by parents for parents. It's a nonprofit, and they have chapters all over the Southland. So I went to the Glendale chapter, and two of my patients, old-time patients, came with their parents to say hi to me. And now these are big grown men. One's in college and one's finishing up high school. And it was just, it was so heartwarming to hear the parents tell me that, the reason why their children are doing so well is because of the work they did with me. So it just, it's really rewarding.
It is the purpose of what you're doing. Just a side note, do you see more autism now than you used to, maybe around 10 years ago? Or?
When I was in training 20 years ago, I didn't see one case of autism.
That's what I thought.
It's exploded.
Yeah.
It's exponentially. The rates have gone up exponentially.
But is it more cases, or we just diagnose them better?
Unfortunately, a lot of physicians think that we've just gotten better at diagnosing them, and my answer to them would be, well, where are the 40-year-old autistics running around right now then?
You're right. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good answer.
They're not.
But no, I remember as a kid, I think I knew one autistic kid, and it was a very bad case, but that was the only, I never, Do you treat ADHD too?
Absolutely.
And is it the same thing? Do you see more? Or?
Yeah, we've got an epidemic of autism, ADHD, asthma, allergies. Absolutely.
And do you think nutrition is also a way of,
Yeah, the treatment approach is pretty much the same.
Okay.
And really, the scientists tell us that it's a combination of the environment and genetics.
So genetics, there's not much you can do about it, I guess. So you're working on environment, which comprises nutrition and, I guess, pollution.
Yeah. So, like heavy metals, mercury, lead, pesticides, BPAs, all these toxins.
This is more personal question. Any water you would recommend that's better?
It's generally recommended to get a good water filtration system for your house, or at least for your drinking water.
Okay.
The Brita really isn't.
It's
not
enough.
Good enough.
It's not good. It's better than tap water, though.
It's better than tap water,
it's not enough.
But it's not good enough.
Taking notes. So, Dr. Hirani, tell me. I know I'm asking you to repeat it, but I think it's important for people who are listening to you. If they want to get more information, is your website the best way?
Absolutely,
yes.
My website, and there's a lot of educational information there for them to learn.
Can they get in touch with you through the website, or is there a phone number that if they want to make an appointment?
Absolutely, yeah. There's they can get in touch with me. There's also a section where they can send me questions. If they've got questions, they can ask me a question.
You have time to do that too.
But my office phone number is 310-559-6634.
Say that again, please.
310-559-6634.
And where is your office located again?
9736 Venice Boulevard, Culver City.
So, yeah, it's very close to the hospital. What's the name?
Bratman Medical Center. We're right next door to them.
Excellent. I think we covered almost everything. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
So it's Here's to Your Health. You've been listening to Rafael Cohen-Bakri and my guest, Dr. Karima Hirani. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. 1 capsule once a day is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and the Romans. This spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Yes, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret Frankincense and Myrrh Oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan,
inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We're music.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. It is my great pleasure. My next guest is Dr. Hans Kugler. Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD, a PhD in chemistry from Stony Brook, I think in 1969. Dr. Hans Kugler is well known in wellness, and Dr. Hans Kugler is possibly, if there are half dozen most important people in the subject of wellness, Dr. Hans Kugler is one of those 6 people. Dr. Hans Kugler, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Well, thank you for having me back here.
No, it's a great pleasure to have you. And so you received a PhD in chemistry at Stony Brook. And before that, you have a degree from University in Munich.
Yes, I'm originally from Germany. I was at the University of Munich Medical School. There was a great, magnificent scientist who was very much involved in determining the structure of RNA and DNA and so on. And I received in physiology undergraduate degree under Nobel laureate Butenandt. That was a very, very fascinating, impressive step, because in his lectures, he always projected himself as, look at this, look at the real science. Science speaks for itself. That's the most important part. And God, I found that so fascinating.
So then really, even as before you received your master's degree, you were involved with athletics, you were involved with food. What were you involved with that kind of pushed you in this direction?
Strangely enough, my father was a pharmacist.
Oh.
All of my family comes from East Germany. After the war, running, shooting, bang, bang over the border. I was too little. I was just born. And then a few years later, I see my father standing in a pharmacy, and he's pointing at a row of glass bottles, with the Latin names etched in, of all the herbs. And he says, there is so much wisdom in there. I don't understand why they're going to all of these toxic chemicals. I mean, here was my dad saying, what, medicine doesn't really work. It's not worth anything, right? And we should be taking herbs and so on. And this really stuck into my head.
I'll bet.
A very important part. And then, continuing, the professors at the medical school in Munich, they were really, some of them, outspoken. I mean, some criticized medicine, some supported it, blah, blah, blah. And it just triggered everything. And, then later on, when I had my extreme car accidents and I was doing longevity studies, I was a professor of chemistry at Roosevelt University in Chicago. I wrote 8 books so far, but my last one is the Lifelong Health, Learn How to Control Your Genes to Stay Young with Age, an ebook, right? You can buy it from Amazon.
Let me have the title again.
Mm-hmm. Lifelong Health, Learn How to Control Your Genes to Stay Young with Age. Mm-hmm. Because it was always said, it's all in your genes, nothing you can do about it. Well, totally wrong. I mean, at Roosevelt University in Chicago, we did longevity studies where we subjected one group of animals to all the mistakes people were making and another group of animals to everything done correctly. And that included exercise and quality nutrition and carbon filtered drinking water, a good environment. And the other ones were subjected to cigarette smoke and naturally no exercise and so on.
Yes.
And at that time, I gave a talk at a big national meeting, and a gentleman came up to me and says, Hans, my name is Professor Churaskin. I said, whoa, God is speaking to me, right?
Emmanuel Churaskin,
yeah,
right.
Emmanuel Churaskin. He says, we're talking about the same thing. I mean, I define lifelong health as a state of homeostasis achieved by doing all these health practices correctly.
Excuse me, Hans, could you repeat that, please?
Right. Yeah. Churaskin,
yes,
in 17 publications,
yes,
showed that lifelong health is actually a state of homeostasis achieved by doing originally about 50 to 70 variables correctly. Yes. And then later on, we could take these 50 to 70 variables and group them together as health practices. So the more health practices we do correctly, the better our overall health is, the slower is our rate of aging, the better is our immune system. But see, at that time, people always said, health practice, this kind of cute, but that really has nothing to do with aging research. Right. Well, in the meantime, real aging, and Churaskin knew that at that time already, but in the meantime, we found with telomere research that actually the health practices are true, or let's say good health practices are true anti-aging modalities, right? And so it really goes into aging research. And Churaskin, I told him about my experiments, what we were doing, and he says, okay, give me a few more details. And he says, you're going to get 100% difference in average lifespan. I said, what? Whoa, And sure enough, we got about 96%. And the interesting part is...
Excuse me. So as a non-scientist, how do I interpret that number, 96%? What does that mean exactly?
Okay. Yeah. That means if you take people who are doing everything wrong, smoking cigarettes, overweight, no exercise, no vitamin supplementation, no emphasis on quality foods, yes, eat all the Franken foods, genetically modified junk, and so on and so on, versus people who are really focusing on doing the right thing, including exercise. That's a very important part. Yes. I mean, it actually comes in a little bit later. So anyway, you get about 100% difference in average lifespan. Now, see, well, doesn't it really agree with people's data? Yes, it actually does. Because normally in the middle, you have a control group, right? Yeah. And if you extrapolate back from the average person, average age about 74, back to people who are extremely overweight, smoke cigarettes, no exercise, a lot of other things, you come out to about 58 years. Well, 58 years, 100% is right between 110 and 120. That is the, by scientists, totally accepted maximum lifespan of humans, 110 to 120.
And you, at this point, you feel that's the correct number?
Oh, totally.
And that many of us could actually hit that, 110 to 120.
Oh, yeah, unless we kill ourselves with whatever, you know, I mean... Eat genetically modified foods and stuff like that.
But 110 to 120, in your opinion, that's just good science?
Yes, that's real good science. Okay. And actually, when we come closer with the stem cells, then we can go past that, right? I mean, there's no question about it. In animal experiments, we've already shown that, right?
You mean with new technology, the stem cell technology, we could live theoretically longer than our than 120, theoretically?
Yeah, but very simply. Yeah. Because what we are doing, yes, or let's say after my accidents, when I recognized I wasn't as indestructible as I always thought I was, I mean, jet pilot, MP, and, like give me 5 guys, I fall asleep, give me 7, I'll wake up, right? I mean, this was just our military attitude, right? And when I had this car accident, it just woke me up.
You got hit by a truck. You had a small sports car get hit by a truck.
Small car hit by a young kid had bought an oversized truck 2 hours before, and a bang, an impact that was unbelievable. I mean, I was in 2 airplane crashes. I wasn't flying, and I know what a big bang is, and that was pretty close to it. And when all this happened, and suddenly you were down, I came to a point where I walked 30 feet, and how distressing.
Because when the truck hit your small sports car, you suffered structural damage to the heart.
Oh, totally. Right. Not only that, a chiropractor friend of mine says, Hans, I've never seen anybody so whacked out of shape as you. And the doctors at Torrance Memorial Hospital, police officers, and so on and so on. Hans, the only reason why you're alive is because you have a lot of muscles, and so on. So anyway, when I recognized all this, I put every penny I ever had into a stem cell laboratory. And that's at Torrance.
A stem cell laboratory.
Yeah, stem cell laboratory. And we're aiming at making your person-specific stem cells with the fullest potential. That means equivalent to embryonic cells, equivalent, I don't say embryonic, and with full telomere lengths. Right, the telomeres are the indicators of maximum lifespan. And when we have this...
I'm sorry, telomeres are what again?
Well, telomeres at the end of your DNA molecules...
Yeah.
Interesting enough, it goes very much into the intelligent design business, right? Because here is the, it's all by accident, right? And the other ones here, no, there's a system to it. Every species on Earth has these telomeres. Like my dog has 15 subdivisions in the telomeres corresponding to a maximum lifespan of 22 to 25. Humans have 54. Every time when a cell divides, it chops off one of those cell divisions. When they're all used up, corresponds to about 110 to 120, right? Galapagos tortoise, 75. And it makes total sense. The more you study this, the more you sit back, the more you say, wow, a really intelligent guy has designed that kind of stuff, right? And I'm not the only one. There's a gentleman, Francis Collins from NIH. Very important.
The NIH is what?
National Institute of Health.
Okay.
Right? And so on. He doles out research money by the zillions and so on and so on. On his private time, he wrote a little book, The Language of God, a Scientist Presents Evidence for Belief, right? Basically, he's saying the same thing.
Who was that again?
Francis Collins.
Francis Collins.
Right. It's on my websites and on my book, the antiagingforme.org, FORME towards the end. You can go there and see all the other stuff. So a lot of people agree on these things. I'm not really a religious fanatic. I just say, I'm a scientist. That's logical. No? And so I was brought up in this system, you know. And I would really get distressed when somebody tries to take it away from me.
And so let's mention this then. So you, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, had that car accident?
Mm-hmm.
Pardon? You had 4 or 5 years ago that car accident occurred?
Oh, no, that was in 2005.
Okay, 2005. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the diagnosis on the heart?
The impact had ruptured parts in my heart. And because they focused on all the other injuries, like I was sitting in that that convertible squeezed in, I really thought my left shoulder had been ripped off. Mm-hmm. And when they finally squeezed, they took this tool where they squeezed the part, and I said, wow, my shoulder is still there. And I started laughing, and they didn't know had the guy turned crazy or whatever, Anyway, so it brought me Torrance Memorial, and everything is fine, We designed our own recovery program and actually presented at medical meetings, and we are in a medical textbook, and so on and so on. But the key thing, when all this happened, I put every penny I had into a stem cell laboratory to make our stem cells. And if, coming back to what we were just talking about, if we had those stem cells today, and if we would put them into your body, they would repair where repair is necessary and literally give those cells a new start. So it's easy to go past 110 to 120. They've actually done it with animals already. No?
Okay, so some of this is theoretical now. So would you like to venture me a suggestion or a target number? What can we actually go to? 125, 130?
Well,
theoretically.
At this point, see, in my approach as a scientist, science speaks for itself.
Yes.
We have the foundation. The foundation are the health practices.
Yes.
Let's improve health practices. That's the biggest problem with our healthcare system, right?
Yes.
Because all what they're doing, nobody is doing this. Before the Obama healthcare legislation, there was a big talk about, we have to educate people about the importance of health practice and nutrition and everything else. And I thought, wow, this just really makes sense, right? Afterwards, nothing, right? Just the drug companies keep you sick, come and paying, and so on and so on. Right? That's just the way it is.
Actually, I agree with you. And so for the listeners, for those of you just tuning in, you're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD. What are the health practices?
We used to say exercise, nutrition, right? And then continue it down the road, including the supplementation, the environment, and so on and so on.
Okay, so exercise, nutrition, supplementation, the environment.
Right.
Obviously, I think most of us would agree those are important.
But it changed.
Oh, it did?
Right now we have exercise and detoxing.
Oh.
Because the detoxing is much more important. As a matter of fact, Foundation for Advancement in Science and Education, a Los Angeles-based research group many years ago, they actually showed that adults, if you go over 35, 40 and get older, you accumulate between 50 and 100 toxic chemicals in your body.
Right.
And they affect everything.
Right.
I mean, they are genetic signaling disruptors. And it is horrifying what these things can do. I mean, they mimic estrogens. We have early, maturing in girls. I mean, we have as young as 7 where we see effects, right?
And that's from synthetic estrogens?
Oh, no, well, a lot of these toxic chemicals, right, that are all coming in, right? And interestingly enough, the mechanism how this actually interferes with normal reactions in your body is a mechanism known as the lock and key. That means a trigger chemical comes to the surface of the cell that may be supposed to stimulate the immune reaction. Okay? Now, it is too big to get inside the cell, so it clicks into lock and key, into something that fits, right? And then it transmits the message to the inside of the cell, and a prostaglandin carries it to the nucleus, and then the nucleus, a section of the DNA is copied that makes how to make immune functions, and then that's called a messenger RNA, and the messenger RNA goes to somewhere in the cell that's called the rRNA, is like the workbench. And transfer RNAs, those are the RNAs that bring amino acid, and everything rolls off fine. However, if that is disrupted, the endocrine disruption, that's the biggest thing right now, especially with the genetically modified foods. There are 4 spots alone in that simple mechanism that I just outlined that can be affected by all these genetically modified foods, right? Before Proposition 37 flunked in California.
Right.
Well, why did it flunk? Because the opposition puts in $44 million, and the people here had about not even $2 million, right? Anyway.
Yeah, they did outspend us. Right.
3 weeks before that, from Cayenne University in Paris, and you can also see this on our website, antiagingforme.org. I'll give you the reference. You can see the pictures. A gentleman by the name of Cerulini fed animals genetically modified foods.
Yes.
And guess what? Tumors and cancers and organ malfunctions. I mean, he's one of the most recognized people in the world. Oh, and what do they say here? Oh, well, he used the wrong test animals. I mean, what a joke.
But he used the same test animals that they used in all the other studies. He used the exact same strain of mice. He used the exact strain. They tried to criticize him on that, and he said, no, this is the strain that they always use. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they just twist things around in a total dishonest way. I mean, they've gone even forward. They put on some of their papers the FDA label. FDA doesn't do anything. Oh, it's just lying and cheating. It's the same as with lawyers, right? Lawyers don't lie. They misrepresent themselves. Ha ha.
Okay, that's Hans. I'm agreeing with you.
But anyway, looking at all this, the toxic chemicals that we have in our body, they can be eliminated with a good detox program. And one that suggests that we can be reasonably effective with this is a niacin-based sauna detox.
Niacin-based sauna detox.
Like the original people, the Narconon people.
Which people?
Narconon here in drug rehab.
Oh, yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay. They basically said, well, you can't just say don't, right? Or just don't do it. Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't seem to, no.
And so they compare the effectiveness of anti-drug counseling. When you just say, oh, just don't do it and so on, well, the effectiveness is maybe 12% maximum.
Right.
However, if you put them on a detox program, you build up to 1.5 grams of niacin, or you use 1.5 grams of non-flushing niacin. You got to be careful there, right? Because if you take regular niacin,
nice red face and stuff.
I mean, the flushing people have run to the hospital for that, you know. But anyway, you build up or you use non-flushing niacin, there's no problem, right?
What 500 milligrams 3 times a day?
Yeah, no, actually you take 3 of them at the same time, about an hour and a half before you do some exercise, and after the exercise you sit in a sauna and sweat. And the niacin causes a lipid turnover the fats where the toxic chemicals are in. And it goes back and forth into the blood. And as the blood passes by your skin with your second kidneys, it comes out, right? And they've measured that. They've actually put, for example, a gauze over forehead, even certain any parts in your body, aluminum foil over it, make you sweat, and then they analyze what comes out of the body, and they can identify 50 to 100 chemicals by name and by amount, what's in there.
Wow.
And when they do this, the effectiveness, just focusing on anti-drug counseling, goes up to something like 80%. Now, that's real science. I mean, that works, right? And then
that's a great number.
Right, and then they went more into different approaches, like, for example, they looked at in general toxic chemicals in our body, right, from pesticides to polychlorinated biphenyls to herbicides, you name it, right, and the same thing. You know? And so that's why detoxing is the highest priority just past exercise.
All right, so let me just recap this. So the protocol that you espouse, 1,500 milligrams of, say, no-flush niacin, what, with some water?
It doesn't really matter, anything, right? With some foods.
And then that'll cause skin reddening, etc.
And it takes about an hour and a half for that niacin to really get into your body, you know, distribute, and it will cause a lipid turnover, the fat turnover, and the fat will carry some of the toxic chemicals that's in, most of the toxic chemicals are in adipose tissue and fat tissue, and they carry them into the blood, and as that passes by your skin, your second kidneys, it comes out when you sweat, right? And they've analyzed that. The only important part is don't do anything just out of nothing. You hear this, talk to your doctor about it, make sure you have no problem doing something like this and so on, right? And maybe
and ask, and how long were you to remain in the sauna?
Just until you work up a sweat. That's a very interesting thing here. You hit on something else new. This guy's informed.
Thank you.
And anyway, so many people sit in the sauna, they cannot sweat. This is really weird.
That is true,
it's got to do with hydration. When you have a normally hydrated body, where you have the minerals, anything from sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, whatever, inside and outside the cell, if they're normally hydrated, then they sweat. And we just tell people, sit in there as long as it's comfortable and so on and so on.
So we're talking just 5, 6, 7 minutes is plenty?
Something like this. I sit about 11 minutes, and I only went once, actually twice, for several weeks, very strong. And now, when I go to the gym, when I have a little bit time extra, I sit in the sauna a little bit. You shift the balance. We are subjected to so many chemicals. There should be a big sign somewhere in every book, killing yourself with plastics, right? The BPA and everything. It's just amazing.
But would you say now that is widely known and agreed upon? Is it as controversial as it was, say, 10, 15 years ago?
Well, the science is very clear. The opponents, the people that don't like it true, they lie and tell you all kinds of stories. And I would love to get on any panel discussion with them, all right? They have no science. It's just total BS.
But they're still kind of defending the plastics. They say they're not problematic.
That's right. Actually, there's somebody recently, one of the phoniest studies ever. Oh, we studied the BPA in the blood, right? And, there were such low levels, it is totally unimportant. Well, if you're a chemist, you know that BPA is not what is blood. It's basically an aqueous-based transport system, right?
An aqueous-based transport system.
Yeah. So the BPA goes in there, and then it goes by the lipids, the fats. It deposits in there, right? It's the same as if you take, for example, in a chemical gas bottle, you take one layer of maybe some organic stuff like gasoline, and another one water. They don't mix. and you have something in water, it's organic, you shake it up and it will go right into the gasoline level, the organic level, right? And the science is totally established. I mean, there's no question about it, you know? We just got to get this stuff out. And Florida University has a big program now. There's an organization called 350.org.
350.org.
Yeah, they're going from city to city, showing the need of doing something, finally doing something in respect to environmental change, cleaning up the environment. You know, as a matter of one of the famous authors wrote in an introduction, he says, if aliens came to your planet and they would destroy your environment, they would poison your waters, they would put toxic chemicals in everywhere, and they would, burn everything else, would you resist? And the industry does it all the time. You know, I mean, it's just, we've got to throw these bums out.
Well, let me say this. I do actually think that people are becoming much more aware. So I really think, I see there's a lot of change happening, a lot of good change, a lot of good change.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does. And, you know, we educate people, and we give them a choice, and we really point them in the right direction. And there's more and more organizations like that 350.org. I mean, it's really magnificent. I mean, they give you the clear data. This is what we can do, what we cannot do, and so on and so on, right? You know, and then we buy cheap products from China. How can they make it cheap? Because they have cheap labor and they have cheap energy. How come they have cheap energy? Because they buy coal from us and they burn it raw.
Right.
With our so-called clean coal, which is a joke anyway.
Yes.
Right? We still put 50 tons of mercury into the environment every year.
In the United States?
Right. And from China, we get about 150 tons.
And again, so mercury is really one of the most toxic of all nerve poisons.
Oh, totally, totally. It gets them to the point that even our blank, blank, blank government scientists actually finally recommend that pregnant women should not eat fish anymore. Right? I mean, it's logical.
Right. Right. For those of you just tuning in, we are speaking with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD, one of the most eminent men in the field of health. And Dr. Kugler, how can we contact you?
Well, the best thing is actually go to one of our websites, right?
Yes,
I mean, there's a couple of websites. The one is Anti-Aging for Me, FORME.
Anti-Aging for Me. Yeah.
FORME.org. And the other one is Dr. Hans Kugler, Dr. Hans, HANSKUGLER.com, right? Or just Google my name, Dr. Hans Kugler. You get probably 50 responses, and everybody brings you back to our websites and so on. And the key book that we have out,
yes,
a nonprofit organization, International Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, sponsored so that we can make that book, that $18 book, available as an ebook for $7.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and that's certainly affordable, right? And a lot of people previously always said, Hans, you don't write a book, you write a thesis. Because everything, whatever you say in the sciences, you better support it.
You better.
Right? To get good documentation.
Right.
And there it is. I mean, it's very simple. Exercise, detoxing, nutrition, environment, supplementation.
And what's the name of that book again, Dr. Kugler?
Lifelong Health.
Lifelong Health.
Learn how to control your genes to stay young with age. And a key point along those lines is that we have shown that all this emphasis on your genes is not really that 100% determined. That means we can take animals that have a bad set of genes and treat them correctly, and they will outlive animals with a good set of genes treated badly. Right? The science is there.
For those of you just tuning in, we just had a great conversation with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD. I'm also happy to announce that Dr. Kugler will now become a series regular on Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on latalklive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
West Coast Stand Up, it's your boy Omar Ray, a.k.a. Suge Gotti. Forbidden Tuesdays with the Gems, 9 p.m. LA Talk Live. Let's get it.
Hi everyone, Chef Richard Petty here to tell you about LA Talk Live's new cooking show, Let's Do Lunch, with me, your host, Chef Richard Petty. Let's Do Lunch launches Saturday, January 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Well, tune in to Let's Do Lunch with me, Chef Richard Petty, Saturdays, 10 to 11 a.m., exclusively on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
Do you suffer from degenerative diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, fibroid tumors, high cholesterol, genital herpes, or a plethora of other diseases that rob you of a quality life? If so, then visit the website of herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra at dhealthstore.com and open the door to natural healing at an affordable price. dhealthstore.com has over 1,800 products created by herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra, specifically designed to help you heal the natural and safe way. At dhealthstore.com, you'll find everything from herbal formulas and cleanses, such as Tahuti's famous full body detox, as well as herbal teas, extracts, natural body butters, lotions, creams, children's products, hair care products, and of course, sexual enhancement products for both men and women. So visit the website of Tahuti Ma'atra, dhealthstore.com, or call toll free at 1-888-823-9416. dhealthstore.com.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. We are continuing our conversation with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD, a PhD in chemistry from Stony Brook. Dr. Hans Kugler, one of the most influential thinkers on wellness, actually worldwide, and that is not overstating it. Dr. Hans Kugler is here on Here's to Your Health. And Dr. Kugler, during the break, you mentioned to me that you thought there was going to be a change in the way healthcare was thought about. And you want to elaborate on that?
It will definitely happen. We're quite sure about that. Here's two situations. Somebody is sick, goes to a regular doctor.
Yes.
The regular doctor says, what are the symptoms? Here is a prescription.
Yes.
Right? The same person goes to an alternative medicine doctor. What are your symptoms? Oh, here's a vitamin, a mineral, or a nutrient. Well, it's better, but it doesn't really solve the problem, right?
Right. It's a step forward. Yes.
Right. And so basically what we are saying is we know so much about the onset of health, our immune system, how to keep it best possible functioning, how to slow down the rate of aging, so that if we, right from the beginning, would emphasize everybody maybe who comes into a doctor, here's a little checklist. Are you doing exercise? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? You know, maybe something new and so on. You know, eat some broccoli raw and some cauliflower and whatever, right? Have you done any exercise? Have you done anything? Do something. And if we would do this, not all, but a very high percentage of the symptoms would disappear. They would appear in the first place, right? Yes. And right fitting into this approach is Baylor Medical College very recently asking that a lack of exercise is actually classified as a medical disorder.
This is Baylor in Texas?
No, Baylor Medical College, yeah. They have several branches. So also
a lack of exercise is what again? A medical disorder?
A lack of exercise classified as a medical problem, medical disorder.
All right.
Right?
That seems important to say, yes.
Okay. Supported by the American College of Sports Medicine. And let me give you one example. About 12 years ago, the question came up, does everybody who suffers from a little depression goes to a doctor, and here they get all these expensive antidepressants and so on? And there was a Dr. John Grice from Wisconsin University.
John, what's his name?
John Grice, was MD, psychiatrist, and so on. And he is known as the hit your head side, whatever. When the student comes in who suffers from depression, says, oh, guess what? I forgot to bring a piece of paper, with some documents over at the other side of the campus. Why don't we just walk along? We can talk. And he actually gets them moving. And while they're talking about the importance of exercise and physical activity and so on and so on. And what they found, bottom line is, if you take a person who suffers from the everyday depression.
Yes.
You put them on an exercise program, very simple. Anything, 3 times a week, heart rate elevated, and approximately about 25 minutes, right? SCL90 depression score, which is one of the most...
What's the depression score again?
SCL90, that's what it's called.
SCL90.
Yeah, because it has hundreds of questions, and people cannot really figure out what it's all about. So it really determines it clearly if that person suffers from depression or not, or if they're faking it or whatever, right?
Okay.
Anyway, and within the shortest time, it drops down to normal ranges. Now, let's look at the numbers. $18 billion per year for antidepressants for not major depression, just this everyday stuff.
That's the number now, $18 billion?
$18 billion.
Wow.
$6 billion doctor visits and medical tests. Mm-hmm. And what most people don't even account for in some of the studies is the cost of this depression to society in terms of lost work and affecting other people and relationships and so on.
Sure.
Estimated at about $42 billion. So you have $70 billion that could be saved by just telling people, do some exercise 3 times a week, 25 minutes, anything.
Now, excuse me.
Jogging.
Excuse me. This is Baylor Medical University reporting this.
No, this was Wisconsin University, Dr. Grice.
Okay, sorry,
right?
Yes.
But
okay.
on the basis of this
yes.
and many other research reports, Baylor Medical College very recently asked that a lack of physical activity should be classified as a medical problem.
Okay, thank you for
clarifying. A medical disorder.
Okay.
Right? Okay, yes. Now, Baylor Medical College recognizes and acknowledged that 80% of every problem that we have, our medical problem, is based on wrong health practices, where we could change things and so on, and the bottom line cost.
So these are lifestyle problems largely.
Right. Yeah.
They're not genetic problems.
No. It's just everyday stuff, right? $3 trillion is our healthcare cost, right? Right now, that's what it is, and it is amazing the amount of money. Now, here we have depression. On the other hand, you watch television. Oh, many people will suffer from depression, they have unresolved problems. Why don't you take a second one? Now, that second one costs $550 a month. And this is just junk. I mean, depression is basically blood sugar disorders. And
so in your opinion, many depression problems are blood sugar related issues?
Totally. Yeah, no question about it, right? And I mean, we know that...
And could you define what blood sugar means for my listeners?
Okay, let me do a little math here.
Sure.
It's very simple. When a person goes to a doctor and the doctor measures your blood sugar, what's normal? Between 90 and 110, right? Something like that. So let's take 100. It's very simple. What does this 100 mean? It means 100 milligrams per deciliter of blood. 100 milligrams per 1/10 of a liter. 100 milligrams per 1/10 of a liter is 1,000 milligrams per liter. 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram, right?
Yes.
Per liter. And what do we have between 4 and 6? Make it easy. 5, just average number. So you have 5 grams of glucose sugar in your blood to keep that blood sugar normal. The minute that blood sugar drops either below hypoglycemia or above, right, hyperglycemia, it really leads to problems. Because it affects your metabolism, it affects amino acid concentrations, it changes amino acids into glucose, it changes amino acid balances, they go up into your brain, cause real problems, and so on and so on, right? Now, let's take 1 can of soda.
Okay.
Right? Interesting ruling in New York that a court says you cannot tell people, you cannot limit the size of sugary drinks. I mean, somebody ought to do it. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous. But let's take just 1 can of soda.
Say like a little 12-ounce can of soda?
How many calories? About 180, right?
Okay, I'm not sure. 180 calories?
Something like this, right? I mean, okay. Now, with sugar, you have 4 calories per gram of sugar.
Yes.
So 180 divided by 4 gives about 45.
Yes.
Right? So you have 45 grams of sugar that you're putting into your body with 1 single can of soda.
45 grams of sugar,
When 5 grams of sugar already keep that at a maximum, you're dumping 10 times as much extra sugar in there. Your blood sugar will come up. Your body will scream, what the heck is going on here?
Right.
Release insulin. The insulin comes in. It brings the blood sugar down. When the blood sugar comes down, man, your body has to maintain blood sugar. It's called the yo-yo syndrome, back and forth. And, I mean, you have dozens of chemical reactions that go wrong. As a matter of fact, a very interesting recent, a big thing from UC Davis. There's a Professor Robert Lustig. He's an MD. I mean, a sharp cookie up there. He has on the internet, you can Google that, Sugar, the Bitter Truth, and explains it. Why? They were actually together with 2 other people. They were also on CBS 60 Minutes, basically saying that sugar is poisonous, addictive, and should be totally avoided. And high fructose corn syrup, it's about the worst thing ever. It's the major part why people are overweight in this country, and so on, right? And then you will have the opposite sides coming in. Fructose is just another natural sugar. No, it ain't, right? It's very simple. Because when you look at, and that's really the turn on for the scientists in the biochemistry, is called metabolic pathways. You know what happens to a compound in your body, a sugar, glucose, fructose, and whatever. And when you study this, you would recognize that only the liver can metabolize fructose. And when it does so, it immediately converts it to fat, to lipids, and it also affects NOS. NOS, well, I don't know what that is. Well, it's one of the most important molecules in the body. It's called nitric oxide synthetase. That's the enzyme that maintains nitric oxide levels. And nitric oxide, I mean, we know that after the age of 40, it decreases in our body, in the blood. It controls everything from heart functions to blood pressure, sexuality. Like Viagra works on that principle, right? I mean, it raises nitric oxide and so on. Well, about 30 years ago, scientists discovered nitric oxide and the importance of it. I mean, a nitrogen and an oxygen together, what a weird little molecule. It almost looks like free radical, etc. But anyway, controlling all these reactions. It escaped. That's why it escaped them for so long, you know. So anyway, in 98, 3 researchers got the Nobel Prize for it. And then everybody, including myself, we were trying to put supplements together to raise the nitric oxide.
Yes.
Well, I gave up after a while because the starting materials at that time were only sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite, and they're a little bit toxic, and you know, don't want to fool around with that stuff, right? So anyway, so I didn't. But very recently, about a year and a half ago, Texas University and a lady friend of mine, Janet Zand, an MD, presenter at American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine meetings, they were able to put those two plant extracts. I mean, they worked with herbalists and whatever. I mean, some comment from somebody led them. It was just a magnificent discovery. That means when you put two certain plant extracts together with some B12, it's a fruity lozenge. You take that, and within 25 minutes, you can show with the saliva sticks that nitrogen oxide increases in your body. This stuff is amazing.
What can you mention what the herbs are?
Well, it's the
name of the product.
The product is Neo40, Neo-40.
Neo40.
Yeah, and the website is Neogenis, not Neogenesis, but very simple, Neogenis, neogenis.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would say it's probably the discovery of the last 10, 15 years.
What's the name of that product again?
Neo40.
Neo40. Okay.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely magnificent, right? Like, for example, when I go to the gym, or let's say my daily routine, I get up in the morning with my cats and my dogs. I get them about ANC and they need feed, right? And I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm making their food. And while I'm feeding them, I also take some vitamins with some yogurt and, you know, just not to take them on an empty stomach.
Sure.
And I feed the animals and then I take a shower. And by the time then I head towards the Good Stuff restaurant in the South Bay Area where I have every day. I have my business meetings there, you know. I mean,
what restaurant again?
Good Stuff restaurant.
Good Stuff restaurant.
Yeah,
okay.
they have several restaurants. I mean, I know the family. You know,
Yes.
it's just like my kind of people.
It's clean food.
Yeah, totally. As a matter of fact, Chris, the owner from the Good Stuff restaurant, he does not put a door between the restaurant and the kitchen. He says, you want to go in there and look, go right ahead.
Oh, wow.
You know? Oh,
Okay.
really? And he started something, you know, there's a new approach, you know, awareness of your environment and this and that. I mean, really nice. So anyway, while I'm heading there, that's when I take one of the Neo40s, right? Because you don't really want to take it on a full stomach. And that's in my opinion, the best.
Alrighty.
And if I head to the gym, I definitely get an extra boost from that, right? No matter what you're doing in respect to your sexual functioning and so on. I mean, the Neo40, the nitric oxide increase, it's a plus for literally everything, you know? It's a very fascinating thing.
It sounds impressive. And while we're on this topic, so the ability to achieve and maintain erection. A man should be able to achieve and maintain erection through what? Through his mid-80s, no problem?
Anytime, basically. I mean, there's a publication came out of Potsdam University very recently regarding the fitness, right? Because we're very much related to that. What's the simplest definition of aging? You could probably agree that it is a constant decrease in the capacity to do things physically and mentally.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. The physical part, a lot to do with sexuality, right? And as long as you have the basics there, I mean, things working out fine. There's what they showed with the Potsdam University over there, that there is nothing at any age group that suddenly stops working, right?
Yes.
And, you know, better loving through chemistry. Why not?
Sure.
I mean, it's a very important part, right?
Sure.
And so on.
It is a sign of vitality, the
Sure.
sexuality.
Sure.
It is a sign of vitality, right.
I mean, it's a God-given property, you know. I mean, why not enjoy it, you know? And there are many different approaches. That means it actually goes to a point where some treating doctors in this area, there's a Dr. Murray Susser. One of those days we're going to have him on here. He's a former president of ACAM, the American College for Advancing in Medicine. He's in the Los Angeles area.
His name is Murray Susser.
Yeah, very, very sharp cookie. And a lot of people have gone to him in respect to some very basic functions and so on. See, people who are informed about that, beyond the Viagra, there are so many other things you can do. For example, pycnogenol, very simple supplement. I mean, a few weeks ago, we were sitting together with some people from Germany, right? And they just said, well, what do you tell people here? And I was joking. I said, what's the best way of anybody who's not really into the field to start getting better health? I said, go to a health food store. Anyway.
And did that go over pretty well, or it didn't?
No, fine. Yeah. Oh, totally, right? But so anyway.
What about pycnogenol? How do you use pycnogenol?
Pycnogenol actually sustains nitric oxide levels in the blood.
Oh, I see.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now, there's also some other things, for example, arginine, an amino acid. Well, that doesn't really work that well.
No, it doesn't seem
because,
to. No.
As a matter of fact, I've known some people, there's a professor here at UCLA, very sharp cookie who knows about metabolism. We had a long discussion about that. Maybe if you take a whole heaping tablespoonful, let's say in the middle of the night at 12 o'clock when you're planning some activity at 2 or 3 in the afternoon on the coming day, whatever,
It might work.
And then also the arginine is actually a herpes risk factor.
Yes, it is,
right?
Unfortunately, yes.
And, so it's just a lot of things that come in. So I think the pycnogenol is even better, right?
How much pycnogenol do you like to recommend?
It really depends from person to person. Maybe 50, 100 milligrams, 200, whatever.
Right. 50 to 100, 200.
Or a couple of times, as you go along.
So you say it helps with prolonging nitrous oxide. Is that it? So therefore, I could be a better runner. I could play better tennis. Okay.
Yeah. It's really. I mean, in nature medicine, everything pops into place. We are going in a big circle, right? And we know that we shouldn't have all this toxic stuff with the toxic chemicals in our body. We know, et cetera, et cetera. It's very simple. And the science is there.
I got you. Let me just take a short break. We're speaking with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD, one of the most eminent men in the field of wellness. And Nestor, we're just going to continue. I just wanted to mention Dr. Kugler's name for people thinking, who's this interesting fellow we're speaking with on Here's to Your Health? It's Dr. Hans Kugler, and Dr. Hans Kugler is going to be a series regular on Here's to Your Health. I'm very happy to announce that. So you don't really like arginine for the athlete. You do like pycnogenol.
Yeah.
What does vitamin C do for the athlete?
Now, that's a whole new big, interesting area, but also can be a can of worms. Because now we're getting into antioxidants.
Yes.
Right? Now, antioxidants are very important to protect us from free radicals. We all know this. There's the free radical theory of aging.
Yes.
Right? With the background radiation and pollution and the wrong foods initiate free radicals that can cause all kinds of damage, cross-linking and oxidation reactions beyond what our body is normally used to, and so on. And then there was a long time ago somebody, it's just more and more is better and better. No, it isn't so. Because in our body, like for example, NAD, there are some energy reactions that are actually based on a free radical principle, right? And so if you're using too much antioxidants, it could actually slow you down.
Really?
And, yeah.
Wow.
A friend of mine, Dr. Paul Ward, an Olympic trainer,
Dr. Paul Ward.
Right. Actually wrote a very interesting book, Encyclopedia of Weight Training. I mean, that was the gentleman where every football, any big team is following his super circuit training program, right? And following up with maybe advising some athletes and so on. And we find if they're taking too much of the antioxidants, then it actually slows them down a little bit. So with vitamin C, that doesn't seem to be the problem, right? As a matter of fact, sometimes, but I really only use very large amounts of vitamin C when maybe I feel a little bit stressed or a little bit worn out or whatever. Like that.
What's your large amount of vitamin C for you?
Oh, a large amount, maybe 5 to 10 grams.
That is a large amount, 5 to 10 grams, 5 to 10,000 milligrams.
Yeah.
In divided doses.
Yeah. I take about 1,000 milligrams. The chewable.
Yeah.
I mean, constantly and. Feel good with that one.
Right.
A typical example. Last December, the American Academy Anti-Aging Medicine meeting was in Las Vegas. I mean, it's the biggest now. And everybody should maybe consider attending one of those meetings because lay people can attend.
What's the organization again?
American Academy Anti-Aging Medicine. The website is worldhealth.net.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, they have an e-journal and an update where you can sign up. It's officially made for health professionals,
yes.
But nobody is going to complain, if you sign up and you don't participate in any discussions or whatever.
Right.
And the nice thing here is it's not affected by any special interest in terms of somebody wants to sell a certain nutrient or whatever. It's just pure good science, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So you go to worldhealth.net. Just everything is very interesting. It will show you when the next meetings are, and also, sign up for the e-journal, the general update. But anyway, what I was saying, last December I was there, and normally I take along a couple of other people. And, we take turns driving, and we have food. I have a Chevy Avalanche, big truck, strangely enough, because I don't want to drive a small car anymore.
No,
right?
I got you. I got you.
Anyway, and and all these other guys, one, Dr. Wong was in, the local MD here, a friend of mine. He was in Bangkok, and somebody was there, and I had to drive by myself. And after we were done, I had an interview with the iHealth Tube, and anyway, okay, I'm going to go home. Why stay another night? And I was a little bit stressed, I didn't sleep that well in a hotel room. And okay, when I come home and I really feel that, okay, fine, I take a shower. I take about 3,000 or 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C, right? And just slow down and then I think that bridges it, and it makes up for the possible, let's say, low in energy,
Yes.
And you just got to be aware of that.
Okay.
Right? And, it's just, remember there was Dr. Richard Passwater.
Yes.
Years ago. Richard Digg was a good friend of mine. Actually, we coordinated some of our longevity studies when I was at Roosevelt University in Chicago. Right? And he was the very first one to point out to me, he says, Hans, with vitamin E, maybe we're taking too much, right? Like, for example, everybody used to take 400 units or even more. Well, now it's a little bit less is better.
Say 200, 100?
Yeah, 150 or something like that,
Alrighty.
And, but, just apply the sciences, what we find.
And too much vitamin E does what, in your opinion?
Well, it's a very strong antioxidant.
Yes.
And actually slows down normal energy reactions in your body.
I see.
That are based on a free radical system.
I see.
Right? So, nothing negative can be, It's just you maybe feel down a little bit, dragged down or whatever, See, there used to be Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw with their books, and
they were fun in the 80s.
Right.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
Good people, very interesting stuff, but follow up out of this comes the basic good science. Hey, we've got to look at what all this is. More and more is not always better and better.
Right.
It's just very simple. Right. No harm done.
Right.
That's really where we are. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with Dr. Hans Kugler, PhD, one of the most influential men in the field of wellness. And Dr. Kugler, please give us your contact information once again. How can we get in contact at your center?
Okay, the best. It's actually a content on all of our websites.
Yes.
The best one is probably, especially when you want to look at my book, you go to antiagingforme.org. And you see the book cover. You can click on the book cover.
Antiagingforme.org.
Right. You have access to the first 22 pages of my book, Lifelong Health, Learn How to Control Your Genes to Stay Young with Age. That's number one. You can leave a contact message or whatever. You want to buy the book. As we say, it's sponsored by a nonprofit organization and available for $7. That certainly should be affordable.
Yes.
Right? And you can go through all the different essential requirements for lifelong health, from how to do exercise, and not only how to do exercise, how to get away with less exercise, more effective, and we have more time for ourselves, right?
Gotcha.
And nutrition and all the same things, And I'm in the South Bay area, and here in Torrance area. I have a stem cell laboratory there.
Do you want to give the address and phone number on that?
No,
Okay,
better not, because
Okay, no
most of the time I'm not there, and I just go to the websites. That's the best, or Google my name, and
Dr. Hans Kugler.
Yeah. The other one website is a newer website that focuses more on stem cells and relative to what we should be doing. Focus on my book too, relative to what people are doing and what we can improve. It's very simple, drhanskugler.com. No, drhanskugler.com.
Very good.
Hello?
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had the great pleasure to have Dr. Hans Kugler on our show today. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. One capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live radio network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Our next guest, Regine Vavasseur, does a very interesting therapy. It's called angel therapy. You might have heard about it. It has become reasonably well known the past, 4, 5, 6 years, possibly longer. Mm-hmm. And Regine is associated with the Agape Center here in Los Angeles, which is a really well-known organization that sponsors some very important thinkers, speakers on a regular basis, and has done so for a very long time. Regine, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm happy to have you here. And now, for the listening audience, you need to offer me, for sure, a definition of angel therapy.
Angel therapy is when it's basically communing with the angels. And in doing so, the person can come to me for chakra balancing, clearing, and things like that of an energetic nature, and additionally angel readings and counseling. So I do a lot of counseling and angel readings and so on and so forth. And I combine them all. So they come to me, and as soon as they sit down, they're out of sorts, so I have to clear their energy.
Yes, right.
So that's what I'm doing.
All right. Now, without mentioning any of your clients' names, why don't you pick a client in your own mind and describe what the modality is? What do you do? If that works for you, or any other example that you want to use, so you explain to me. I don't really know the subject.
Okay. Sometimes I do two other modalities that are clearing in the way of clearing traumas and things of that nature that people grow up with, and they've never been able to let go of them, or any kind of habits and things like that. Angel therapy is good for that as well. But with some of my other modalities, I kind of infuse the angel therapy in there, and that'll be a clearing ground when they first sit down, when they're a little discombobulated and in a dither about something, and then I just calm them down, clear their energy, and then we get to work and start working on the issues that they come to me. And they'll come to me for issues with finance, issues, abuse issues. I've worked with a lot of abuse folks that have had abuse, from whether it be sexual to verbal to whatever you want to. There's so many different types. And I've worked with a person that was abused from a very young child, actually from like infancy, and she, as a result of that, had multiple personalities, because it was a satanical thing going on in her childhood, and it was very, very gruesome. And so I worked with her, and she came to me as a client, and then I just realized that she was, had that issue of multiple personalities, and I started working with her.
Well, look, let me ask a question. So the idea of multiple personalities, that's actually, luckily, relatively uncommon, isn't it? It's not very common.
It's not very common. I mean, but we know about it. Everybody's seen the movie Sybil, and there's other, movies that have dealt with it, and but other than that, not too many people know what it's all about.
All right, that seems terribly extreme as a therapist to have to work with a patient who's that ill, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And may I ask, so what would you do for that patient? What can you do for that patient?
Well, what I did ultimately was it took a while, and it took about 2 years, and she would come, and when she would have an episode, and then we'd work on it, and finally I worked it down to the point of the actual core issue of what was going on, and it just took some time to get down those layers. Because the folks would get in the way. She called them her little people, so they would get in the way. So then we would have to get past them, and I'd have to maneuver and go in and out. And it was very like flying by the seat of your pants. It was just like, okay, this was new to me, and I was just trying to move through it and help her at the same time, because this is something that I'd never dealt with before. So Spirit guided me, angels guided me. And I did a lot of angelic work with her, a lot of angelic cleansing, because that was something she really, really, cottoned to. That was something really that she was in connection with.
My question now is, with the idea of angel therapy, is there a particular book that influenced you? Is there an author, or is there a school of thinking where this comes from, and who are they?
Okay. I was taught by Dr. Doreen Virtue.
Doreen Virtue, yes.
And so I was taught by her, and that's how
she's the prime practitioner.
She was the prime practitioner, and so from there, I started doing the work, and that's and I stayed in touch with her from time to time. But she's very busy, and she travels all over the world.
And what was her book, Doreen Virtue's book?
She's written at least Angel Therapy was one of them. And she's written like 50 books.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, if you go on hayhouse.com, you'll see she's very prominently.
Oh, she publishes for Hay House.
Yes, yes. She's got lots of CDs, and she's the first one to do the oracle cards, where you do the readings and so on and so forth. So
A little bit like the I Ching? A little bit like tarot cards?
No, oracle cards are, kind of like that, but with angels. And then she graduated and did ascend to masters, and then she's done mermaids, and then she's done a lot of different things. So that's how I started, and then I started doing from there. I graduated into theta healing, which is the modality that I worked with on my client, and then from there, reference point therapy, which was another modality that I worked with on my client. That was the final thing that I used to kind of get her to merge all the personalities together. And it was something that she had to really forgive. And we finally got to the final what it was, that she blamed herself and she felt guilty about something that happened with her mom, her birth mother, that was killed tragically. And so it was one of those things. So.
Well, that sounds like a difficult client.
It was very difficult, and it's like I say, sometimes I was like, when she left, I was like, okay,
right, okay, that was a difficult one. So
yeah.
Let me ask you then, what is theta healing? I know nothing about that.
Theta healing is when the practitioner goes into the theta wave brainwave and communes with spirit, which is the source, the God, the big Kahuna, whatever you want to call him.
And how do you learn that technique?
Well, you just go into the theta wave brainwave. You just close your eyes, and that's like alpha, beta, theta.
Yes.
You just go into that brainwave. It's kind of like a meditative state, closing your eyes, and then I can just do it instantly, and and then I just go in there, and then I just connect or commune, and then as the client comes to me, we're talking about what they want to clear up, whether it be financial or what have you, relationships, and we sit down and get that out of the way, and then I get to work and start asking them questions, and then I'm muscle testing them with these two fingers, and you've seen people do this.
Yes, I have muscle testing.
So this is another easier way to do it. And if it stays together, if it's a yes. If it pops apart, it's a no. So where I'm asking questions, and in some cases clearing along the way energetically, whatever the issues are, until we get to the core issue, and then then I just clear that, and then they're good as new.
And theta energy, the theta healing, is there a prime author of that technique?
Vienna Steibel.
What's the name again?
Vienna Steibel, and she is the facilitator and I guess owner, if you will, because she started the modality, and she healed herself as a result of it, and that's what started it, and it just progressed on until she started teaching, and then she started getting little snippets of this, snippets of that, and then it, so it clears in 4 levels: on the core level, on the history level, on the the core, the history, and past lives, and additionally all the soul level, which is all that you are, and genetically as well. So it's clearing on all those levels, and that's very deep. A very deep cleansing modality that I work with.
And these healing modalities that you're using, are these also being taught at the Agape Center here in Los Angeles?
I've had workshops there with Theta Healing, introducing it, and yes, and we also have I facilitate there every third Friday. It's called Sacred Energy Healing, and we do healing for the congregants that come. And it's 7 to 9, and we do it there. And
7 to 9 in the evening.
Yeah, in the evening.
Why don't you give us the address there? For
sure, it's 5700. I want to say Sky Park. Sorry, Buckingham Parkway, and it's in a cul-de-sac, and it's just Slaughter and
So it's rare. It's in Culver City.
Culver City, yeah, on Buckingham Parkway, and the cross street is Slauson.
Let me ask you a question about the Agape Center, which is pretty well known here in LA and probably internationally. How many people do you get for lectures or for a Sunday service? Can I ask that? Can you tell me that?
They do
They get 500 people?
Oh, more than that.
Oh.
They do 3 services.
Oh,
So
really?
I can't, gosh, maybe 1,500 at the third service, and the second and third service are fairly busy. The first service is like a 7 a.m. service, so that can be maybe not as populated, but it's pretty full.
And this is on a Sunday.
This is on Sunday, and then he also does a Wednesday evening service.
And you've been associated with Agape for how long?
Gosh, since 92.
Oh my goodness, you've been there forever. That's good.
I kind of grew up
good.
spiritually there. I mean, I'm born and raised here, a native Los Angeles girl, and then I moved to New York in the 80s. So I was there the whole 80s and kind of spiritually unfolding and doing my thing there. And then I came back in the 91, and then I heard about Agape, and then I went because I was looking for some place to go.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a wonderful place, and Reverend Michael really is very interested in healing. Like healing modalities and healing work, and we have that's as a result of our well-being ministry, which started as something that he really wanted to spearhead. So
wow. For those of you just tuning in, we're speaking with Regine. Regine, pronounce your last name for me.
Vavasour.
Regine Vavasour, who does theta healing and angel healing. And what was the other modality?
It's reference point therapy, and it's RPT for short, because it's
Reference
long.
point therapy. Okay.
Yeah. And it's that one goes along the lineage. It's the same premise of working with people's issues and challenges that they are trying to let go of. And the motto for that is, feelings buried alive never die.
Feelings buried alive never die.
It's the name of
That's
a
probably
book.
True.
It's
Probably
the
true,
name
yeah.
of a book, and I just took it as my motto for that, because people, they layer and layer and layer, and they move on in life, and then all of a sudden everything starts to fall apart, and they don't know how to deal with it. And that's when they come to me, because they've tried this, they've tried that, and then I work with them very, very carefully and diligently. Just working them down their past and going from, taking them some time to the point of conception to find out what the energy was like. Because, even as an embryo, you can sense and feel. Sure. And then sometimes take them down the lineage and asking them, what happened. I'll get questions, to ask them. So what happened? Let's go back and look at maybe down the lineage with your grandmother, your mother's mother. What was that like? And then I ask them to use their imagination, and then they come up with things like, well, this happened to her, and then they can see why their mother responded to them the way they did.
Right.
So it's stuff like that happens.
Is that almost a past life kind of discussion?
No, well. It's lineage. It's not
lineage.
Really. It's just down your lineage, like your
that would seem important, wouldn't it? It would obviously seem it has to
because
be a factor. Yeah.
It carries back. It carries down the line.
I would say it seems.
And
to
then
me
you
it would.
wonder why. Well, why am I struggling and I can't get past this issue or that issue, and it's because of something that happened down the lineage.
Yes.
So we clear it up, and then they're able to move forward.
Sure. And Regine Vavasour, how can we contact you for more additional information?
Well, I'm located and work in the South Bay, and I am reachable at 310-316-1284, and my website is heartspaceenergyhealing.com.
How about just once again those contact points? Let me have that once again.
Okay. heartspaceenergyhealing.com is the website, and my contact number is 888-316-1284.
And if you'd like to recommend a book or two that you think my listeners should read to get a sense of your subject, what book or books would you like to recommend?
Well, I would invite them to go to hayhouse.com and look up Vienna Steibel, and she's written many books now. When I met her, she had just a little tiny book that she just self-published. Now she's a big deal. So they can check there, and she has her books listed on there about theta healing. With reference point therapy, you'd have to go to the basic referencepointtherapy.com website, which is Simon Rose is the head guy with that. He's the one that created the modality. And he's written a book, and there's a book you can get through his website. Now, he lives in Australia, and he works there. But he travels quite a bit, but you can probably order it online. Also, Hay House again for Doreen Virtue. And she has a multitude of books from angel therapy to healing with the angels, to you name it, the fairies, the archangels, the angel signs, which I was reading the other night, different signs. When you're working with people that come to you, for questions and with an angel therapy, they're asking me about different signs. So sometimes you'll get signs where you'll find feathers right at your feet, or
oh, really?
Yeah, and that's happened to me.
Really?
Yeah, one flew through my window and my car. I was at a red light, and it was a tiny little white feather, because I was going through a little issue, and I was like, okay, what do I do? And then I got some confirmation before I left to go on my little car ride, and I said, oh, okay. And once I got in the car and was driving, got to a red light, and my window was just cracked by this much, and a little tiny feather just floated in and landed on the passenger side floor, and I said, well, that's okay.
But that sounds like fun, doesn't it? That's like
that was
that's
just
a nice
such
omen, isn't it?
It was just wonderful. And then ever since then, every now and then I'll find little not little. Now that was little, but that was just an amazing thing that would just float through that little tiny crack in the window. And then other times I found big feathers, big white feathers just stuck in the ground. And then there's times, I hear in this ear in terms of, when the angels or spirit is speaking to me, and they'll just guide me to go somewhere and tell me, don't do that, don't do this. This is what's going to happen, and blah, 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 blah. So then that'll be that thing. And then sometimes I'll hear sounds like ringing sounds. And when they're waking me up, if I oversleep, I hear an alarm and I don't do an alarm. I just ask them to wake me up. And usually my eyes just open immediately. But if I don't do that, if, for instance, I don't ask them the night before to wake me up at 6 o'clock, then I'll wake up to a ringing sound and I'll go, oh, and then I know it's them. So it's been all kind of interesting things.
That sounds very good. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. We're speaking with Regine Vavasseur, who is a theta healer and does angel healing, and is associated with the Agape Center and has been for several decades. That's a nice thing to be able to say.
Yeah.
And this is Here's to Your Health, and I'd like to thank Regine for being our guest. And we're going to be back next week with with Hans Kugler and Raphael Cohen-Bakri as series regulars. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll again see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.